Oh, there's something down here. Plus his buried treasure.
I got some summonses I want to sort out this morning, all right?
Ah, just a bit of old carpet.
Tango Echo 14, confirm number 2929, Fitzhammon Embankment, over.
Tango Echo 14, that's correct, over.
Yes, noted, that's 14 en route.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Can I first of all apologise for keeping you working late this evening, but let me tell you that at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, down at Fitzhammon Embankment, some workmen were in the rear gardens of numbers 27 to 29 digging down to find some drainage when they uncovered a carpet. Regrettably, inside the carpet, there are what appears to be the remains of a human skeleton. The pathologist is down at the scene at the moment. We believe that it may be that of a female. We don't know how long it's been in the ground, but what I have to tell you is, and I don't want this disclosed outside, is the fact that the carpet is bound with flex, and over the skull of the skeleton is what appears to be a black bag. Therefore, I would tell you that it's vital at this stage that you get out, down to Fitzhammon Embankment. I want every flat and house visited, and also those that overlook the rear garden where the skeleton was found. I know that it's a moving population, so it's important that you get into people straight away and try and find out as much information as you can.
Mrs. Leader?
Yes?
CID officers, can we have a word with you, please?
Open the door now.
Mrs. Leader, you're aware that a body has been found in the garden. I've been given your name by the builders. Can you tell me how long you've been living here?
About 13, 14 years.
Are you in a position to identify the other persons in the building?
Yes, I was caretaker here, and I used to go into all the rooms and empty the electric meters. There is a rent book, but there was no names in there, only the numbers of the rooms and dates.
But you believe from that rent book you would be able to assist us?
Yes, I could.
If I can just update you all, the remains are still with the pathologist. We have also recovered some hair, which is in the forensic science laboratory. Found on the skeleton are these articles that are displayed on the board. Now, we are going to have a tremendous task in respect of these, because what we have is a pair of urines which to the normal onlooker look quite ordinary, and therefore we have to try and trace where they came from. We have a brassiere, which has got a label attached to it. We have a sweat top, which has also got a label attached to it. We have a pair of knickers. We have another label. We have a sock. And we have a piece of the carpet that the body was wrapped in. It's vital to the inquiry for us to get a breakthrough to identify when these were manufactured, because that'll give us an indication of perhaps when the body was put into the ground. Now, in respect of the rest of the remains, we are going to get into as many experts as we can. The skull is on its way to Dr. Whittaker, the odontologist in Cardiff, who's first of all going to look at the teeth for us and see if he can give us the correct age of the girl.
The first thing that I did was to take some x-rays of all of the jaws and then detail of some of the teeth. We look particularly at this area here, which is the developing wisdom tooth, and we've also made a big photograph of that. We can see that the crown of this wisdom tooth is complete, but the root hasn't developed here yet, so that gives an age of around about 15 years. And if we look at these roots here, these are not quite developed either, and that enabled me to tighten up the age a bit to 15.5 years at the time of death. And that was the best I could do at this stage of the investigation.
Oh, Good morning. My name is Diana Zani from the CID in Cardiff. At the moment, we're making some inquiries into a suspicious death of a female. On the body, there was found some items of clothing, one of these being a pair of socks. I wonder if I could make some arrangements to come down and speak with you for some advice regarding this item of clothing. Yeah, that'll be lovely.
Hello, good morning. My name is Les Mumford from the Cardiff CID.
Morning, is that Levi Manufacturers?
We're investigating a suspicious death.
On the remains was one of your Levi Strauss sweat tops.
We found a pair of trousers bearing the label Carmen Gear.
We've recovered a piece of carpet with the body.
We need to try and find the year of manufacture. I wonder if you can help me. How do you do? You're the manager?
Yes, I am, yeah.
We spoke earlier on the phone. I'm from the incident room at Fairwater.
Yeah?
I wonder if you can help me. We're trying to identify the label Carmen Gear.
Yeah?
Which we found on a pair of trousers.
Right, Jeff, how are we doing with the bra?
Well, the company has actually ceased trading, but a firm called Shadowline manufactured it.
Shadowline, where are they?
They're based at Grantham in Lincolnshire.
20 officers spent the best part of a month contacting shops and stores, first of all in Cardiff, then further afield around the Midlands and even America. Gradually it became clear that all the garments would have been available for sale during the very early 80s.
As far as the house-to-house is concerned, that hasn't been very fruitful. We've had much more success with the leaders, the other caretakers. As a result of their records, we've traced about a dozen people that lived in that basement flat.
Hello, we're police officers. Making some inquiries into the people that lived at 29 Fitzsalmon Embankment. I gather you've lived there?
Yeah.
Oh, Stuart, just the man I want. Can you top Neil and I up on the clothing, please?
Well, we've done pretty well with the clothing. There's lots of information coming in. As we know, it's mostly cheap stuff, not very good quality. But the dates, first manufacture, seem to be early 80s, particularly 1981. We found out that there were Cardiff outlets for the bra and the jeans, so I think we're probably looking at a local girl.
Right, I think from what you both say and what is now vital is that we run the clothing together with what the experts can tell us so that we can get a correct date or time when that body was put in the ground.
The police sent me some soil samples from the garden at Fitzhamon Embankment for analysis. This is because the insects found in the soil can give an indication of how long ago death occurred. Now, the first things I found were the empty pupal cases, hundreds of them, of a fly called the forehead fly. These are the pupal cases that are left behind after the fly has emerged. For these insects to have consumed the body and totally skeletonized it would take about 3 years. In addition to these forehead flies, there were a large number of woodlice, present as all life stages, young ones and old ones. The presence of the woodlice on the skeleton, therefore, did suggest that a long time had elapsed for such a vigorous population to have developed. There were also a large number of beetles of a kind that would not attack the body until about 4 years after death. And all in all, the conclusion from this work suggested that death had occurred at least 5 years prior to discovery, and probably longer. It was not only possible to determine the time of death in this way, but also the probable time of year in which death occurred. This is because there were a few, less than 10, puparia or pupal cases of bluebottles. These insects will not lay their eggs on a buried body. They will only lay their eggs on an exposed dead body. And they will do this only at the time of year at which they are most active, in other words, the summer months.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Are you Diane then?
Yes, I am.
I'm with police officers from Fairwater Police Station. We're investigating a suspicious death at 29 Fitzhamon Embankment.
Yes.
I believe you used to live in the basement flat there.
That's right, I did. It was years ago now.
Yeah, I wonder if we could ask you a couple of questions in relation to your stay there.
Yes, certainly. Okay, come in.
Hello, Alan Sheldon?
Yeah?
I'm Detective Sergeant Fenton. This is DC Griffiths from the South Wales Police.
Yeah.
I understand you resided at the basement flat at number 29 Fitzhamon Embankment?
Yes, but it was years ago.
We're investigating a suspicious death, and we'd like to speak to all the residents living at those flats.
Can you tell me when you moved into Fitzhamon Embankment?
Around the mid-70s. It was when I met my husband.
What flat did you occupy?
The first floor flat.
How long were you in that flat?
Oh, until about 1979-80. It was just after the floods, and then we moved into the basement.
Regarding the basement flat, can you remember the carpet?
Yes, I remember it very well. I actually chose it myself. The owner showed me some samples, and I picked out one which matched my three-piece suite.
Thank you very much. We'll send somebody down to see you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
How are we doing with the residents, Dick?
Great at the moment. We've traced something like 100 residents, and the teams have been out and actually seen 70 of those persons.
Oh, good. What about the carpet?
Well, we've even managed to trace where the carpet was sold from, and Jeff is going down there later on today to further inquiry.
That's looking good, too.
Good morning.
After a week of searching through the store's old files, Jeff Norman's patience was rewarded when he found the original invoice for the purchase, dated the 6th of September 1980. And that led to the name of the man who fitted it.
Again, using this plan that I've got and some photographs that have been taken by residents, which I think might show some joins, I'd like you to tell me exactly how you'd go about fitting the carpet.
Right. Well, what you do, you see, is you take your first roll...
In a police hangar, precise measurements were drawn out.
Bring it backwards down by here. Then with your second piece of carpet, round this bit of staircase here.
The crucial question was what size the offcuts would have been.
Would you expect to have any pieces of carpet left over?
There'd be some scraps from the edges down by here and round the fireplace and that type of thing, yeah? And there'd be a bigger piece left, I'd say, about 6 foot by, say, 5 foot. And that'd be your biggest offcut that'd be left.
This is the piece of carpet that the body was found wrapped up in. It actually measures 6'2" by 4'8". You better use one of these, I think. Have a good look at this carpet now, and tell me whether you think it has ever been laid.
Well, to start off with, if you look to the top of the carpet, all right, you don't see any pressure points at all. No marks where furniture or chairs...
We were now sure that the carpet used to bury the remains had come from the basement flat, and it had probably been laid in about 1980. It was now a matter of checking the tenants of the properties from 1980 onwards. Because of the clothing that we had and the information from Dr. Whittaker and Dr. Zack, the time element was becoming now more distinctive. We were getting a feeling for her, a teenager. But to identify her was now the thing. Missing person records over the last 10 years were not very good. Neither were people's memories. It then came about, we heard of a man called Dr. Neve from Manchester University, a man who could make up a face from skulls.
The police sent me the skull that belonged to the skeleton found in Cardiff. And the first task is to make a cast of that skull, which is then mounted. Eyeballs, or simulated eyeballs, are placed into the eye sockets, and then the soft tissues of the face have to be developed in a very precise manner. And before starting that, holes are drilled into the plaster skull at 21 specific anatomical sites, and pegs inserted, and these indicate the average thickness of soft tissue that you're going to find. And at any one stage while the face is being built, the thickness of clay that is built onto it never goes above these points. Then, using this sort of material, the muscles around the eyes, which form a very specific pattern, those that form the muscles of the cheek are developed. Features like the lips and the eyes and the nose are critically important when trying to recognize anybody. It's not possible to make an exact portrait. 100% accuracy isn't possible. What we're trying to do is to produce a face which is going to be very similar to the kind of face that individual had when they were alive, and that when it's circulated in the right area, that somebody who knew that individual will have their memory jogged.
Richard Neve's artistry was now to be put to the test. Could anyone put a name to the face he'd so painstakingly reconstructed? It became the focus of a massive publicity campaign.
Hello? I recognise the picture in the paper.
Hello? I've seen the picture in the paper. I think it's Colin Price.
we were given about 20 names of possible people. Of that, one name cropped up twice, that of Karen Price. We were able to eliminate all the other people, so it was now a question of trying to trace Karen's dental records. This in itself was another massive effort, and it meant visiting all the dental places in Cardiff. At the end of the day, they visited one practice and came up with Karen's dental records. These were taken to Dr. Whittaker, the odontologist.
I'd made my own dental chart from the skull, and I compared that with the dental chart that the police had produced. Now, most of the details, in fact, matched, and so I was quite happy to determine that this, in fact, was the body of Karen Price. Now, another area of interest to me was to try to tighten up the age, and to do that I took a section of one of the teeth, cut a slice through it and looked at it under the microscope. Now, I was surprised to find that inside the tooth, and you can see it here, there is apparently blood that has run out or been forced out into the little holes inside the tooth. And that isn't very common, and it strongly suggests that unfortunately Karen had died a violent death, and it was probably strangulation.
But Dr. Whittaker's evidence alone wouldn't be enough to identify Karen Price in a court of law. Dr. Erika Hagelberg, a research biochemist at Oxford University, had pioneered a technique for extracting DNA from decayed bone. The results of her work were then sent to Professor Alec Jeffreys, the inventor of DNA fingerprinting. A comparison with DNA from blood samples taken from Karen's parents proved beyond doubt that the victim was indeed Karen Price.
We now had our big breakthrough, the name Karen Price. It was now vital to the inquiry that we find out her background, how she ate, how she slept, how she dressed, etc., and how she spent her day. This would give us the key to the answers we wanted to find out how she'd come to her death.
From this point onwards, Karen's life story quickly began to emerge. She'd been in care since the age of 10. After her 15th birthday, she'd moved from a children's home to an assessment centre in Pontypridd. 2 months later, she disappeared. A social worker remembers her well.
On a mission, she was very immature for her age. She was unsure and to a degree shy. Desperate to be liked and wanting to make friends, both with staff and peers. As time went on, she started to make friends with the more delinquent type. She found it easier to fit in with their wants and likes. Karen loved clothes and music. She was very much a lonely girl who needed to have companionship more than anything else. I think she needed love, definitely needed love, and that she didn't really know how to go about getting that. But one way was obviously friends, and she needed a friend.
Her best friend was a girl who we'll call Alison. Alison had shared a room with Karen at the children's home, and she'd also been with her at the assessment centre in the summer of 1981.
I used to sit and listen to records and just chat away. Gone really well.
Did you ever run away with her?
No, but we used to both run away kind of separately and sometimes see her.
Where would you meet her then?
Big Asties and around the bus station. Maybe have a coffee in Big Asties because we didn't really have much money. We used to go to the Chippy on Caroline Street and just eat there because it was cheap.
Anywhere else you used to go?
The XL restaurant. And we just used to hang around there together.
Karen frequently absconded and spent a lot of time in the Wood Street area of Cardiff. There is little doubt at this time that she was into the seedy world of street life and all that it brings to people.
But how and why was Karen killed? Police now knew for certain that she'd been buried during summer months. The clothes she'd been wearing were all for sale in the very early 80s, and the date she'd vanished from the assessment centre was the 2nd of July, 1981. But what had happened to her after that?
The going now becomes very tough indeed. We still don't have a cause of death, and we still don't know how that body came to be buried in the back garden of 29 Fitzhamon Embankment. At this stage of the inquiry, it would have been easy for me to tone it down, to go and see the coroner, to hold an inquest, to get the body identified, and probably cause of death unknown, and perhaps then the matter would have rested. But I think that everybody on the inquiry still wanted to find out how she had died, and so we had one iron left in the fire, and I decided that we'd contact the programme Crimewatch because I know they can reach people that the police cannot get to.
Run VT1. Title's running.
Marriage breakout.
8, 7.
Here on BBC One, Nick Ross and Sue Cook once again ask for your help in Crimewatch UK.
0.
Okay, we're on air. Be coming out to camera 3 next. Stand by with the lighting change. Then it'll be you, Nick, on 4.
That's on.
What's the problem?
20 seconds
But no
after
picture.
BT.
No picture where? On the monitor?
Here it is. Thank you. It's got a dot.
Okay. Just a reminder to both VT1 and sound, Keith, to keep the sound going under the wide shot on 3.
5, 4.
Coming to the wide.
2, 1.
And mix. Lighting change. Lighting change.
We'd settled the children into bed. The 4 of us sat down in front of the telly ready to watch our regular monthly programme of Crimewatch, which we watched every month. I'd always dreamt of recognising somebody's face on there and, you know, sort of phoning up and saying, yeah, I know that man. But this was different. This one was certainly different. I didn't know anybody on that programme, but there I was sat next to somebody who had information that could help.
We were able to identify the remains in the carpet as that of the girl, Karen Price, from Cardiff.
Hey, I knew her.
He started talking about the programme during the programme, but I was so intensified on the programme, I didn't want to miss any part of the programme, especially when it was on a girl in Cardiff, my own town. I mean, I just wanted to see what this case was all about.
I used to hang around with her.
Detectives are very anxious for any help they can get from anyone who knew Karen or thinks they might have met.
What do you know about her then?
I just knew some of her friends. Nothing important.
What do you mean, nothing important? Instead of desperate for any info, you should ring in.
Yeah, give him a ring.
And she'd done so several times. She often came
Nah, leave it.
There's no doubt that she did frequently...
Right, I'll ring in for you. I won't give him any names.
Astley's restaurant, the Empire Pool, and the bus station. And without doubt, somebody there must have known her and also knows her movements at this time.
Well, if you befriended her then, you might be a real friend now and ring in. These are the sort of clothes you think she was wearing.
A sort of grey sweatshirt, and these very distinctive. These jeans.
Yes, you're right again. They're Carmen gear make, which is rather unusual. But we're absolutely sure that she was wearing an identical pair of jeans when she was buried in the ground.
OK, that house again, 27 to 29 Fitzhamon Embankment.
Wind up, Nick. Wind up.
You think she might have been staying. We're not sure about that. We need to know anyone else who was staying there.
Here's the number, 018.
Come on, Idris, they need more names.
I remember we're talking about is summer.
It's a long time ago, I can't remember.
One in particular. 01811.
Come on. As I said, if you're a friend of hers then, be a friend of hers now.
Go on, Idris, try and think.
Come on, think hard.
39838.
Michael.
John,
Right.
people are really reaching for the phones, I'm sure.
I'll give another ring, but keep thinking.
Who are hesitating. A bit worried that if they ring in, they're going to catapult themselves into the
Well, I rang earlier about Karen Price.
guard of the suspects. No, I would like
No, I'm not giving any names.
They would be purely treated as friendly witnesses.
No, just call me Garfield then.
So please come forward.
Yeah.
We're also getting a lot of calls on George.
Right, well, if I ask my mate, and he knows someone called Michael she hung around with. Right. No, that's all I've got. Bye.
And mix.
9, 8, 7.
And change.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, take to my network. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Michaela. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Rusty.
Thanks, Barry.
Paul?
Yes, sir.
What sort of response have we had?
Very good. I just contacted the incident room and we were well over 60 calls.
That's great, but Michael's not enough. They want more names.
Get them to come over now and I give them some more names.
The third time I ran, they said they were willing to come down. So, you know, I said to Idris, if, you know, they'll come and visit you, or if you want to, you know, do you want to see them, you can do. I assured him that, you know, I'd be there. It certainly wouldn't be just him and them on their own. And after all, we only thought there was, you know, information regarding the people that she was having round with that they really, that they really wanted.
I wanted you to call into the police station today to take a statement off you. Reference what you told me about Karen Price last night. I want you to tell me everything that you knew about her.
Yeah, we used to go to school together.
Where was that?
Green Hill.
And when?
78, 12 years ago.
12 years ago. A long time ago. Do you see her after that?
I saw her again in July 81.
July 81. Where was that?
Cemetery Park.
Is that the Cemetery Park in Adamstown, Cardiff?
Yeah, that's right.
Did you recognise her straight off?
Yeah.
Who was she with?
She was with her friends.
She was with her friends. All right. I want to go into detail now about that time in Cemetery Park, all right?
We found Ali to be a very interesting character. He knew a lot about Karen. We treated him as a witness because of his knowledge and the information that he had. In fact, we spoke to him over a period of 4 days, and in that time, we linked him with Alison. We therefore brought her back in to be re-interviewed.
Hi, Alison. We need to ask you some more questions. If you can come back to the station with us.
Oh, again?
Yeah.
Well, is it going to take long?
It shouldn't take that long.
Well, I'm not ready. You better come in.
Okay.
Right.
The reason I brought you back in, Alison, is because I want to speak to you in a little more detail about your friends and get some more information about where you went and who you met. I want to ask you firstly about Idris Ali. How well did you know Idris?
I knew him from hanging around Big Asties and the bus station. We all used to hang around there, so I suppose I'd known him for about a year or so. It was just someone I knew, like the rest of the gang. He was always there.
Was he ever your boyfriend?
No. No.
What about Karen? How well did he know Karen?
He knew Karen quite well. I think at one time that they had a bit of a thing going.
Did you ever go to the XL with him?
Yeah.
Who else did you meet at the XL?
I'd meet Karen. She was there. Lots of other people. And Alan Charlton.
Alan Charlton.
Alan Charlton was a name that seemed to mean something to Alison. He'd worked at the XL as a doorman, and he'd lived at number 29 Fitzhamon Embankment in the summer of 1981.
John? We've made a few inquiries, and there's certain things and people you've been holding back on us. You understand? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And in particular, Alan Charlton. It's obvious you know Alan Charlton. We've checked. When did you meet him?
I met him in the Addy.
The Adamstown Public House? Yeah. When was that?
It was, July 81.
And what do you talk about?
Talked about my business.
And what business is that?
He was asking me how I was making my living.
How do you make your living?
I was running some girls.
Girls? How many?
Karen and Alison.
Pimping? You were pimping off them?
Yeah.
Were they the only two girls you were running?
Yeah.
Were they with you when you met Alan Charlton in the Addy?
Yeah, Karen was there.
Karen was with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you met him in the Addy one day?
Yeah.
So did you meet him again?
Yeah, I met him at the Axel.
Was Karen there?
Yeah.
And what did you talk about there?
He wanted to know if we went to blue parties.
You wanted to know if you went to blue parties?
Yeah.
What did you tell him?
I said never been.
You said you'd never been?
No.
No? So what did he want?
He wants to know if I could supply the girls for his party.
Idris, are you telling us the truth?
I'm telling the truth.
So everything you've told us so far is the truth?
Yeah.
I was together with Karen and Idris Ali outside Big Asties about 8 o'clock. And then Alan came to join us. And after about 20 minutes, he said we should go to his house, his flat.
Why don't you come around to my place?
Well, what do you think? Yeah?
Yeah, all right.
All right, then.
Okay, thanks.
Off you go.
I don't know how long we'd been there before Alan, said that me and Karen should get into bed naked so they could take photographs of us. I said no, refused, and he slapped me across the face. So Karen shouted at him to lay off, to get off me. And then he started on her. He slapped her and punched her. He went berserk. And then when he stopped, I went over to Karen and she was on the floor. And I saw a small trickle of blood from her mouth.
Idris, you were saying these parties in the basement, they're Blue Movies parties.
Yeah. I said if I supply the girls, I'll make quite a lot of money out of it.
So you were making money from the parties in the basement?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Well, I think, Idris, we ought to get it down in writing now, everything that you've told us. OK? We'll take a statement from you. And you can put it all down, everything that you've told us. OK?
Everything I've told you is true. But I want to say I did help Charlton. He's a psycho man.
Idris, you realise you do not have to say anything unless you wish to do so. But what you say may be given in evidence.
You telling us the truth, Idris?
Yeah.
All of it?
Yeah.
Did you help him?
Yeah.
Right, it's crunch time, Chris. What have you now got on Alison?
Well, Alison now admits knowing both Ali and Charlton and to being present in the flat at Fitzsalmon Embankment when Ali and Charlton murdered Karen.
Come in. Les?
He's coughed, boss. He's everything. He admits being there. Charlton, Ali, and Alison, they were all in the room together, and they did it between them.
I think that's tremendous. Well done. Now arrest him and detain him in connection with Karen's murder, please. And then will you also pass over to Stewart that we now know enough about Charlton to implicate him in the murder, and therefore he's got to be brought back and arrested and brought to Cardiff.
There he is.
Mr. Charlton. We've come here today to arrest you for the murder of Karen Price in July 1981. You're not obliged to say anything unless you wish to do so. What you say may be given in evidence. Do you understand?
I do.
You have been arrested this evening for the murder of Karen Price, whose body was found in your back garden. I want to be sure, before we start, that you fully understand that, Mr. Charlton.
I do.
Do you admit any part in her killing?
No. I admit no part in her killing, and I deny it completely.
I'm now going to show you 3 photographs of Karen Price. I want you to look at them carefully. It's 9 years ago. That girl was found buried in your back garden. Do you know her?
No. I categorically do not know that girl.
Okay, so it's 4 days later. You've gone back there and you think he's in the garden.
Yeah, that's right. Probably took a long time answering the door. He asked me to help him dig.
Is that what he was doing?
Yeah.
And what time of the day is this?
In the afternoon. Yeah. If anybody was watching, they think we were doing some gardening.
Was he digging a hole, or was he just turning the garden over?
Just digging a hole.
Did you help him?
Yeah.
Did he force you to do that, or did you volunteer to help him?
I just did it. That's right. Scared of him.
Dealing with the flat in particular, and especially the carpet, can you describe it?
As far as I can recollect, it was a multicoloured carpet. I think it was squared in pattern, but not entirely sure.
Do you recall at any time seeing an offcut of that carpet, perhaps hidden in the cupboard under the stairs?
Well, as for the cupboard under the stairs, I only use that for rubbish and things. I never really went in there. And answer to your question, no. I never saw any offcuts.
During the time you lived at the basement flat, during that time, can you tell me if you did any digging in the garden?
Not to my knowledge.
We interviewed Alan Charlton over long periods of time. However, he repeatedly denied knowing Karen. We did have evidence available to us from other witnesses that they had been seen together.
I'm now going to show you a photograph of a young girl called Alison. That photograph was taken, we think, 9 years ago. Look at her carefully. Do you know her?
Not to my knowledge. No, I've never met that girl.
But a friend of Alison's had vital evidence to the contrary. Again, as with all the witnesses, we're protecting her identity, although their words are taken directly from statements.
Alison had shown me a house in Fitzhammon Embankment where a friend Alan lived. She told me she'd been there before.
Would you like to turn and face the screen, walk along the line at least twice, and take as much time as you wish?
From behind a one-way mirror, the witness was asked to identify the man she'd seen with Alison in 1981.
This person is the Alan I saw Alison talking to on several occasions in July 1981. Even though this person has changed since I last saw him, I still recognised him immediately. It's number 4.
Again, I'm going to show you a photograph of a man called Idris Ali. This photograph was taken recently. Look at him. Do you know that man?
To my knowledge, I have never met that person.
I was a waitress at the Excel in Caroline Street. It seemed to me that Idris Ali and Alan Charlton knew each other, because I remember them talking together at the Excel. The impression I got was that they were friendly with each other.
There was a bouncer who worked at clubs in the city centre. I saw him with Idris Ali walking along Wood Street. This happened on several occasions, and they would have either been walking into the city centre or towards Tudor Road.
Would you like to walk along the line at least twice and take as much time as you wish?
I picked out Alan Charlton. He used to hang around the Central Railway Station and with Idris Ali. I also knew him from the Xanadu in Excel in Caroline Street. It's number 11.
Thank you.
Finally, and I want you to think very carefully about this question. Did you murder Karen Price because her body was found in a grave in your back garden? I'm telling you strictly no. I deny all knowledge of this murder and of any parties and of knowing Idris Ali or this girl. Alison?
On the 25th of February 1990, police were ready to conclude the investigation and bring charges. It marked the end of a long ordeal for Alison, whose fear had kept her silent for nearly 9 years. As the leading witness for the prosecution, no charges were brought against her.
Alan Charlton, Idris Ali, you are both charged together for the you at Cardiff between the 1st of July 1981 and the 1st of May 1982 did murder Karen Price against the peace of our sovereign lady the Queen, her crown and dignity. You do not have to say anything unless you wish to do so, but what you say may be given in evidence.
I certainly don't know this person, and I certainly deny the charge.
Alan Charlton and Idris Ali, you have both been convicted of the appalling murder of a 15-year-old girl 9.5 years ago. You have been convicted on overwhelming evidence. You, Alan Charlton, were 21 at the time, and you, Idris Ali, were 16. Because of the passage of years and the numerous lies that both of you told, it will probably never be known precisely what the sequence of events was which led to this girl's murder. But clearly, you both took part in it. I am sure that your part, Alan Charlton, was the major role. The sentences which I pass are those which are prescribed by law. In your case, Alan Charlton, it is imprisonment for life. In your case, Idris Ali, you will be detained during Her Majesty's pleasure.
At the end of 1988, there was a spate of break-ins on the Isle of Wight. It was hardly major crime, but the island is a small place, and gossip about the culprits soon reached the ears of the police. But when guns went missing too, the police began to step up their inquiry.
As you can see, basically they've been working on all these burglaries down at Cowes.
Yeah.
And it would appear now that they've identified a possible suspect by the name of Flanagan, running with a few other characters down there. But I think the stage's been reached now where really it's getting beyond just the way they're doing it, and they need a bit more resources put in here to try and dig into this.
But what evidence is there?
Well, haven't got much on forensics so far. We haven't been able to recover any property either, but from our observation we've done so far, they're moving around late at night. So I think if we continue our surveillance through a 24-hour period, we might be able to catch them on a job.
We can't afford to do 24-hour surveillance on him.
Well, how can we go with it at the moment?
Well, I think you can only just carry on as you are.
Okay.
Then, at a hotel called Calvert's, came a crime which was in quite a different league.
Papa 50 Zulu 1, it is confirming armed robbery, believed between 2 to 3 persons, no ID over.
Two men came in, one with a gun, and forced me into reception. They forced me into the chair. My hands tied tightly behind my back. A polythene bag was placed over my head, taped at the back. I couldn't breathe. I'm gasping. And then a gun is placed in my mouth.
This was an unusual crime for the island. It was serious. It was an armed robbery involving guns, people getting tied up. Not the sort of crime that we expect on the island. It's an island community, it's a holiday community. We get quite a bit of petty crime, burglaries, but we don't get armed robberies. So this really stood out as a serious crime, and as such caused a lot of feeling in the community and did give us a lot of feedback as to what was behind it or who could be responsible.
Whilst they were opening the safe, I could hear the conversation. Gentleman speaking. A Scotch accent whose name apparently was John.
Just over 2 weeks later, police in Cowes were summoned to yet another break-in. They found the burglary had been abandoned, and they began to search the area.
That's Flanagan's car.
Yeah, they can't be that far away, Stu.
Go on, you have a look round. Stuart is a Bryson bit. OK, Graham, just mark it and we'll get the other lads to come round and we'll carry on searching. OK. There's Flanagan.
Stand still, gents, police officer with the dogs! Stand still! Stand still, Flanagan! Good boy, leave! Digger, leave! 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 Heel! Heel! Heel!
Next morning, now with evidence on Flanagan, police decided to search for property that could link him to the burglaries that happened before Christmas.
Hello, I've got a warrant here for the search of your premises. We believe there's stolen goods in here. Can we come in?
I suppose so.
Repeating Alpha 423 Sierra.
They found stolen property, all right, and police suspicions about Stephen Flanagan's links with more serious crime were fueled by a mass of documents and notebooks.
The house search has been done and we've got some good stuff from that, which Dave can fill you in about.
We've got diaries, we've got address books, we've got phone numbers. I've had a quick spin through them and we're talking contacts all over the country.
That's interesting.
Flanagan's situation seems to be a lot bigger than we thought. There's even information coming in now that he's been up to something, posing as a policeman or something on the mainland. We've had information come through as well that he's one of those responsible for Calvert's.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Well, if it's right, we're really into something, which is what we thought may be there. And really, we're back here today to try and encourage you to give us a chance to go for it.
What are you asking for, Dave? What do you need?
I think we need Nick and Stuart written off on this now to follow it through. And I'd like to set up a team on this and let's really give it a go.
Well, it sounds pretty good to me. Let's go for it.
Can I
pass through this afternoon?
Nick,
Just want a short.
can you jack up a couple of statements for us on identification of some recovered property?
Yeah, no problem.
This afternoon, all right? Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay.
Nigel, I've got a couple of phone numbers here.
I
I wonder if you can run some subscriber checks for us.
Yeah, sure.
See who
No
they're down to. Pick them up from some of the property that we've recovered.
The notebooks had yielded some 600 names, numbers or addresses. But what was their significance?
I wonder if you could do me a couple of telephone checks, please. Yeah? All right, first one's a Portsmouth number. We've got no record of that number. Yeah? Can I just give it you again? You try again for us, please. Yeah, okay, it's 550. On Solent number for me, please. Yeah. Also, I'm sorry about this, but I have got a new key number as well I'd like you to try. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks for trying anyway. Yeah, cheers. Bye. There were so many telephone numbers without either names or sometimes without STD codes that we were having to throw at British Telecom all sorts of numbers and part numbers, sometimes 50, 60 at a time. Even though they were very helpful, I got the feeling towards the end they were getting a bit tired of my voice on the phone.
Among Stephen Flanagan's possessions, they found receipts from a hotel in Bayswater in London.
Interesting. They show there's 3 people in single rooms, and they appear to be over a 2-day period. So as we got the information of them doing a job up in London, obviously we ought to go out there and have a look, perhaps.
Okay, all right.
Get an early ferry then.
Yes, I do remember those 3. They were very rude. Ah, yes, here we are, look. They stayed here on the night of January the 12th, and they all gave Isle of Wight addresses.
Did they give you any other names apart from these?
No, they're the only ones I've got.
Well, those names don't tie in with what we're looking for, but what about description?
Yeah. Can you describe them at all?
Oh, I can remember one quite distinctly. He was quite tall, about 6 foot, very broadly built, had ginger curly hair, in his 20s, quite good looking.
How about the others?
Not offhand.
Well, perhaps you could think about it for a moment. I'd like to take a statement from you if I can.
Sure.
Thank you.
That description's good. That could well have been Flanagan that she saw there.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Stephen Flanagan was eventually released on bail and quickly vanished. Just as Operation Trigger was beginning to produce results.
Or DAWOOD. Could you have a look at that for me, please?
One unusual name led to an even more unusual sequence of events. Dawood Murtala.
I'm not sure if it's our Dawood or not.
Just on the subscriber on the Bellevue and got a list of the people that stayed there, and one of them on that list is Dawood Murtala. Yeah? A bit of a coincidence.
Don't take him away. Say no. Murtala's arrest was unusual. He'd borrowed a car from a girlfriend and was driving around in the Hyde Park area when he was involved in an accident. He then borrowed another car from a friend and continued driving around, this time in the King's Cross area.
They've come in. They've seen you.
Right.
I've stolen the car. You have to arrest me. It's gone. Smashed it up.
Where'd you stolen a car? You say?
Yeah, it's gone. It's not there anymore. It's really smashed up.
Was it the car you were driving?
I stole it.
Was it the car you were driving?
No. It's a white car.
A white car. Whereabouts is it now? Do you know?
I took the car, and it's by a man.
Well, Murtala was arrested and taken into the local police station on suspicion of having stolen a motor car. At the police station, the chances are that on the information that was available, he would probably have been charged with nothing other than a minor offence.
Keys. Come on, everyone up to this road. Come on. Well, if you just in the cell. No! If you take the keys and no. There you go. Here you go. Hey! See what? He knew that I said when if you ask what I can I said when
Whilst in the cell, for some unknown reason, he decided to write a long confession on a toilet roll, of all things.
If she takes the keys...
It was a long and garbled confession, but basically he was stating that he'd been involved in a burglary at a sauna and massage parlour.
That break-in led almost miraculously from Darwood back to his associates. Someone seemed to think that the massage parlour owner, Janet Gale, still had a lot of money. For 2 weeks later, her block of flats had visitors.
I'll do the talking.
All right.
Can I help you? I wonder if you can. I'm Detective Sergeant Anderson. This is Detective Constable Henderson. We're investigating a fraud. Does Janet Gale live here?
No, there's no one of that name living here.
Obviously a bogus address they've given us.
Well, there is a woman who lives downstairs from me, but I haven't seen her since about October.
Can we speak in confidence?
Yeah.
It's a serious matter. She's wanted for an insurance fraud.
Well, I'm afraid I don't know anything about that.
I think there's narcotics involved. Yeah. We need more information, backup. Better report to base.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Nice to hear a Scots accent.
Aye.
Initially I was a bit suspicious from the way they went about things, and they mentioned the word narcotics. And so I phoned Fulham Police Station and asked them to describe a warrant card, which they did, and it seemed to match the one that was flashed to me. I also mentioned the fact that they shook my hands, and the police officer at Fulham said, well, we like to be nice to our customers. So by this time I thought they were genuine policemen, and when they came back round in the evening I let them wait for Janet Gale in my flat. I even offered to make them coffee.
Do either of you take sugar? Oh, Christ.
This is real. You, sit over there.
Please.
Move! Mr. Blue!
Sit down.
Tie him up. Mr. Green, get a pillowcase.
Right, don't move. Please, look up.
Shut up! Are you expecting anyone? Don't turn round. Are you expecting anyone? Because you'll get hurt.
I thought that they may be the IRA, and after they started calling it themselves Mr. Brown, Mr. Blue, Mr. Black, etc. And I thought they'd soon discover they've got the wrong person and they'd go away.
What you looking at? She's downstairs
Number 9, all she wants is from Duran Duran.
Come on.
I date fine young cannibals and she drives me crazy. Number 7 this week from the Four Tops, Loco in Acapulco. 4-letter word in Crimewatch at 6.
This is 50 feet up, but they seem to enjoy bravado.
Put your hands on your head! Come on, put them up! You don't look at me. You move back. Come on, move back! Come on. Where's the money? Where is it?
I haven't got any.
Where's the money?
Stop her!
No!
Come on, don't mess about. Where's the money?
The only money I've got is in my handbag.
Where's that?
I don't know, somewhere in the flat.
Mr. Blue, go and get it. Come on, Janet. We want more than the handbag. Where's the safe? Where is it?
It's over there.
It's a combination. What's the number?
Tell him.
I haven't found anything.
Haven't found anything? What have you been doing? We haven't got all day. Keep looking.
Come on, Janet. Get a move on.
Remember, just give me a moment, will you?
Do you want to get cut?
No.
Hurry up then.
Come on, get that thing open.
Don't miss.
You see, it's empty. You're too late. I was done 2 weeks ago.
Shit. Come on, get her.
Come on. We're on that bed.
Get on the bed. Face down.
Shut up.
Jesus.
Here, lads. I found it. There's a couple of grand in here.
Mr. Green, come on.
Well, Dave, you know, I'm sure you'll agree with me that even in London this day and age, that type robberies in people's home addresses is quite unique. And because of that, we've not got too far with our inquiries. We've certainly not identified the people at this stage.
They may well have stayed at the Leinster Hotel, which I understand is only about a mile away from your Fulham address. And it looks as though they've stayed there on the particular days of the robbery.
We've also had mention of a Scots John. Does that tie in at all?
Well, it does, because on both the robberies here, we've got this mention of a Scotsman. You know, the man who poses as the policeman. But as I say, I've got no further with trying to
we didn't have a lot of joy
find his identity.
As far as trying to tie somebody down called John with a soft Glaswegian accent goes, obviously it's a bit difficult. I've been in touch with the Strathclyde collator, who just rolls about laughing when you ask him, can you tell me how many robbies you got called John in Glasgow?
Just hundreds.
So there's a lot more to do on that, yeah.
Yeah, OK, that's fine.
Yes, we've also got some information that they've been involved in other jobs, perhaps down in the West Country. We've got quite a few lines of inquiry to follow up there. Probably take us a week or two, so perhaps we can get back to you in a couple of weeks, have another meeting.
We can pull together what we've got at that stage. Maybe it will look more interesting.
Yes, right. Be great.
OK, lovely. It's been nice meeting you.
Back on the Isle of Wight, the Hampshire team turned up another name, this time with a phone number in Luton. They checked it through with Bedfordshire Police.
We've got a group of characters on the island involved in armed robberies, or so we believe. The main one of the group, as far as we know at the moment, is a bloke called Stephen Flanagan. Amongst some paperwork of his and his associates, there's an address book. We've got a name here. All it says is Hayden, Wellington Street, Luton, by the police station. I wonder if that name means anything to you. Yep. McFarlane, you say? Can you spell that for me, please? M-C-F-A-R-L-A-N-E. No mention of Flanagan on there. Yeah. The call to Luton, what it did with their system there was basically register our interest in Hayden McFarland, and also that we thought he was associate of Stephen Flanagan. Luckily for us, the intelligence officer there, he made a record of this phone call, and we weren't to learn until much later what the consequences of that call were going to be.
In Luton, a local CID man, Paul Owens, had a meeting with one of his informants.
You know Hayden? He's been hanging around with this guy called Steve from the Isle of Wight.
Sure it's not Andy?
No, Steve. He's kind of a big bloke. He's got reddish hair, freckles. He's been talking a lot about doing a lot of armed robberies.
What, in Luton?
All over the place.
All over. Do you know where he hangs about?
Well, I saw him in a pub in the centre of town, but I haven't seen him since then. Tell you what, he drives a red Ford Sierra, and I think it's a C-Reg.
C-Reg? Mm-hmm. Don't see him about. You've got no idea where these robberies were then?
Not a clue.
Do you know if he's got a gun?
I don't know. But I do know he's very heavy, so I don't want to get involved in it, you know what I mean?
OK.
Listen, I tell you, if I get anything, I'll let you know, all right? I'll give you a call.
Other information came in that Hayden not only had a gun, but had used it to threaten someone.
The target for this morning's operation is a Hayden McFarland, who we know is in Luton and believe may be armed. Now, we understand that Hayden McFarland may be with a man called Steve. Inquiries with the Isle of Wight, Steve is a Stephen Flanagan, who is in fact suspected for armed robberies in the southern counties. It's our intention to enter the premises at 9 o'clock this morning and to effect the arrest of McFarlane and Flanagan. And I remind you, they may be in possession of a firearm. We're going to use the operational support unit and firearms officers to effect entry to the premises.
Oh, police! Get your hands away from your body where I can see them! Move your hands away! Very slowly, move your feet round onto the floor. Keeping your hands away from your body, sit up in the bed. Again, keeping your hands away from your body, stand up. Now, very slowly, go down onto your knees.
DC Paul Owens was left behind, unarmed, to guard the house until a search team arrived.
help you at all?
I don't know. I'm looking for Hayden and Andy. Are they here?
They're not around at the moment, no.
Oh, not here?
Are you a mate of
right.
theirs, then?
No, not really, no. Why are you? Do you know them?
Yes.
Could you give them a message for
They should
me?
be here in a moment. They won't hang around.
I haven't
You're from Luton yourself?
No, I'm not. I'm from London. I've got to go somewhere else, so...
How did you go out from London then? It's quite a journey.
No, I didn't actually come from London. I came down from Scunthorpe.
From Scunthorpe?
Yeah, in my boyfriend's car. Look, I've just...
It's not the Sierra over there, is it, by any chance?
Yeah, it is, actually. Why?
Well,
What's
it's
going
Steve.
on? Yes, Steve. What is this? What's going on? Where are they?
Hayden and Andy have been arrested. I'm a police officer. Is that a problem?
No, it's not a problem for me. I don't know these people.
Oh, you were with them last night.
Oh, last night. I met them one night. Don't you believe me?
I'm going to get annoyed with that.
I'm not getting annoyed. I'm just telling you, it's absolutely nothing to do with me. And I would like to go, and you're blocking my way.
Listen, at the end of the day, they've been arrested, you've been hanging around with them
So
lately,
what?
so you may be able to help us out.
I don't think so.
What's the problem?
There's no problem.
No problem?
No.
What's your name then?
Catherine Hall.
Catherine Hall. And where do you live, Catherine?
London.
Big place, London, isn't it?
It's a very big place.
How about an address then?
An address, okay? 54 Cobden House, Arlington Road, Camden, NW1, okay? Now can I go?
If you hang on a second, okay, I'll just check, make sure that you are
You don't
insane.
need to check, I've just told
Well,
you.
listen, what's the point getting annoyed? I've got a job to do, you appreciate that, didn't you?
Fair enough, fair enough.
So if you hang on a couple of seconds,
Okay.
calm down, I'll just do a quick
I'm
check and you can
quite
be on your
calm.
way.
I am quite calm, thank you.
No problem.
It's nothing
I can't
to
see
this
the
is
point of getting
ridiculous.
annoyed about it.
I'm getting annoyed.
I need your date of birth to do the check.
20th of the 10th, 64.
Thanks very much.
It's a pleasure.
No problem. Yeah, Charlie Kilo 455.
455.
Yes, can I have a PNC body check, please?
Fresh details.
From speaking to lads on the Isle of Wight, I've been given a brief description of Catherine Simpson and the alias she used of Catherine Hall. When we carried out the raid in Wellington Street, Flanagan hadn't been in the premises, and obviously the fact that Catherine Simpson had turned up at the flat, I was aware and knew that Flanagan would be somewhere in the area. He had a gun, and obviously I was concerned. She's a white female, 5'6". Where were you born?
London.
And she was born in London, huh?
Yes, sir. Just confirm all Catherine.
Okay. I gave you false details.
What are your proper details?
Catherine Simpson.
Friend of Stephen Flanagan?
Yes, girlfriend of Stephen Flanagan. It's absolutely nothing to do with me.
Listen, Catherine. As a result of what I've been told, I believe you're involved in armed robberies in the Southern Counties area. I'm arresting you on suspicion of being involved in those robberies. Do you understand that?
I understand, but it's
Fine.
nothing
You don't have
to
to
do.
say anything unless you wish to do so. What you say may be in evidence. Can you take your hands out of your pockets, please?
It's nothing to do with me. I am calm. I'm quite calm. What
Fine,
would you
take
be
your
like
hands
if
out
you
your
were being
pockets,
arrested? Okay, fine.
Just go inside, yeah?
Okay,
Rather than
just
shout
back
and
up.
scream
Back up.
Andy, can I ask you just to
Police in Luton gathered officers from the Isle of Wight, London and Scunthorpe to see how many crimes could now be linked together.
Very basic descriptions of the two offenders, and I believe the Isle of Wight may well have the identification of a person matching our description.
Yeah, we've been interested in some characters on the island for some time, and the information was that our people are involved in Calvert's, one being a bloke we refer to now as Scots John.
Do we know who Scots John is yet?
No, still not found him. Got a few addresses, but we've not got any names yet.
No, not been identified.
No.
Nick, you had dealings with the Red Funnel offices robbery in Southampton. Can you detail those for us?
Yes, certainly. We did have specific information that Flanagan and Simpson were involved in the robbery. Those links we have there with the handgun and Flanagan, the tape used at Calvert's and actual documentation we found at Flanagan's address tied us in with the Fulham robbery that we've been speaking to Barry about.
I'm investigating a similar tie-up robbery at the Hyde Park West Hotel in West London, as well as a number of tie-up robberies at off-licences and betting shops, again throughout West London.
Right. Thanks, Barry. Paul, following the raid yesterday morning, you seized some property and also a Sierra. Can you detail what you found in it?
Yes, certainly. Full search has revealed, firstly, some blank shotgun cartridges, sets of handcuffs, oxyacetylene cutting equipment,
Also found, of interest to my colleagues at Scunthorpe, will be some receipts that are quite recent.
Yes, I'm investigating 3 armed robberies at off licences, all of which are similar MOs. There are 2 in Humberside, one of which is in Scunthorpe, and one in South Yorkshire at Doncaster. And the paperwork and the handcuffs found on the vehicle are an obvious connection with our jobs.
Thank you very much.
Well, Hayden, this robbery we're talking about. Do you know anything about it?
No.
Fine. Do you know a bloke called Steve Flanagan?
Could do.
This man, Stephen, we believe he's involved in armed robberies. Do you know that?
No.
OK, let's try it another way. You ever been to Scunthorpe?
No.
You sure? Problem? Let's put it another way. You've been to Scunthorpe in the last 10 days?
I told you, I've never been to Scunthorpe. Ever.
You must have thought about something when your boyfriend goes out for 5 or 10 minutes and suddenly appears back with you with £200 or £300.
Look, I didn't even think about it. It never crossed my mind. He just went away and came back with some money. And
so where did all this money come from?
Look, I don't know where it came from. He just gave me the money and I accepted it.
Just accepted it blindly? You didn't think, where's this money come from?
Once or twice I may have done. I don't query money the same way as other people do who've worked for it all their lives. I mean, I've always had money. My parents have got money. My friends have got money. Stephen's got money.
Where do you think he's got that money from?
Look, I've no idea. Look, if your wife gave you £50, would you suddenly say, oh dear, this is probably stolen money because it's such a lot of money? I don't know. I just didn't ask any questions.
What would make you wonder on those odd occasions then? What would it be then?
Well, I may have thought once or twice. I may have thought this is unusual, but...
What was so unusual then that made you wonder once or twice?
I don't know. Sometimes I just wondered once or twice.
Then why did you wonder on those once or twice
Because
occasions?
I just did. That's all.
But what made you? Why?
I don't know. Once or twice I just thought about it. But it was only very occasionally.
You're trying to put yourself forward as a gullible young lady who's never been in trouble and is very innocent. But I know what I believe. I know what Eric believes. And I know what a jury would believe if they listened to this tape. You have ridden along on the crest of a wave with your boyfriend who's been committing armed robberies all over the country. And that's the truth of the matter, isn't it? Right, I'd like now to try and establish what you and Stephen have been doing for the last 3 weeks. Where were you 3 weeks ago, Catherine?
We were staying with a friend in Slough, Guard Road in Gadworth.
Who's that?
Just a friend.
To check the story, police drove down to the address that Catherine had given at Slough in Berkshire. A firearms team was put on standby in case of trouble.
Good morning, Mrs. Boyce.
Yes, that's right.
DC Clark from Farnborough CID. We're making some inquiries into some armed robberies that have taken place locally. Is Eddie about at all?
Eddie's away this week.
There's nothing to worry about concerning him. We basically need to speak to him through our inquiries. Anybody else in the house with you at all at the moment?
Only John. He's upstairs.
See, is there any chance I could pop in and have a word with him?
Yes, all right, come in.
Okay, check the lounge there. Good morning, DC Clark from Farnborough CID, investigating a series of armed robberies that have taken place in the south of England. Can you confirm me that you were staying here on the weekend of the bank holiday just gone, the Easter bank holiday?
Yeah, I was. So what?
Were you staying here with a bloke called Stephen Flanagan?
Yeah, we were, but wait a minute, mate, you can't just come in here and start asking me questions.
I'm here lawfully. I've been invited in.
By who?
By your sister-in-law. And I've got some other questions I want to ask you. Was Catherine Simpson staying here as well?
Yeah, we're all here.
So all 3 of you were staying here?
Yeah.
And who are you?
John.
When he started speaking to me with a Scottish accent, I twigged, or thought this probably was Scots John, the man we were looking for. At this point, the heart started racing a bit, realising he was an armed robber. John who?
John Boyce.
Right, John, I want you to listen to what I'm going to say. I'm telling you, I'm arresting you on suspicion of conspiracy to rob. You're not obliged to say anything unless you wish to do so. What you say may be given in evidence. Do you understand that?
Aye. I do. You ain't charged for driving, no?
Hey? No, not this time.
OK, John, we put certain offences to you that you've been able to help us with. Can you tell me some other offences off your own back?
If I can remember. Little Chef, Red Funnel, London, Seven Sisters. That's all I can remember.
And is it really just a case of trying to remember them all?
Yeah.
I mean, from our point of view, we're just trying to get a general idea as to what you've done.
I've been a silly bugger. Let's put it that way.
I mean, how many do you think we're talking about? 10, 20, 25?
Couple of dozen?
I was a little bit gobsmacked, to be honest. I've never seen a man sit there and admit so many serious offences, and to this day I've never figured out why he made so many confessions.
We've got a couple of things here that we haven't mentioned. The building societies in London and the TSB.
Well, the TSB, I did that one on my own.
When are we talking about? Is this after Calvert's Hotel in the Isle of Wight?
Yeah, it was.
What, after Fulham? Janet Gale?
Yep.
Where was the TSB?
London, Westbourne Grove. Just walked in and pulled out my gun.
You taking me down the station?
Detectives then visited Boyce's known associates.
Come on, don't be stupid. Look, I haven't done anything wrong. Look, I'm not going.
Come on, don't be stupid.
Don't hold me so tight, will ya?
I wouldn't do nothing like that.
Don't waste your breath, Nigel.
But I'm not, I've been going straight for a long while. It's just not, I don't do that kind of job.
Hello, Dean. You know me, don't you? This is Detective Sergeant Stewart. Come to arrest you on suspicion of armed robbery at Fulham in London.
So now the whole gang was in custody, except the one they started out with, Stephen Flanagan, who'd jumped bail on the Isle of Wight.
In this car here.
But then there was a stroke of luck. Quite independently, Scotland Yard had turned to Crimewatch. They'd been searching for an Irishman.
This man is being sought by London's flying squad officers. He's seen here in November in the nationwide Anglia Building Society in Haringey. The staff saw that he had a handgun tucked into his trouser waistband. He passed over a note demanding money, but the staff refused to give him any, and he left empty-handed. We think that the same man has committed 2 further armed robberies in London, the most recent on the 7th.
It turned out that the Irishman was not an Irishman at all, but the man already held in Hampshire, Scots John. And there was more to come.
Following the Crimewatch photo call, we had a large number of telephone calls which confirmed the identity of Boyce, not only in our own inquiry, but extending it to other armed robberies in the south and southeast. It also gave us some information which we thought would lead to the arrest of his accomplice, Flanagan. But in order to protect our sources of information, I'm unable to describe how we tracked him down.
This is Dartmouth in Devon, 3 days after the Crimewatch programme.
Foxtrot 2 in position, loud and clear.
Foxtrot 3.
In position, loud and clear, Foxtrot 3.
Tango 1.
Tango 1 in position, loud and clear, over.
From Foxtrot Control, all radio checks completed. Over to OP1.
Foxtrot Control from OP1.
Receiving.
Yes, suspect vehicle has appeared at the end of the road and is driving slowly towards the house.
From Foxtrot Control, all units monitor. OP1 has control of it.
Suspect has appeared and is driving slowly past the front of the house.
and turning into the side lane.
Suspect vehicle now at the rear of the house. Has just sounded his horn twice. Suspect vehicle's now reached the end of the road again and is now driving down towards the house. Suspect vehicle has stopped.
Suspect is now getting out of the car and looking up and down the street.
Suspect is approaching the front gate.
And walking towards the front door. Front door's opening, suspect's coming in.
Oh, police, stand still! Do everything I tell you and you will not be harmed. Put your hands in the air. Do it now. Stand still! You just keep looking at me. You won't be harmed. Drop down onto your knees. Do it now. Now drop down onto the floor. And spread your hands and legs. You keep looking at me. You keep looking at me. Somebody's going to come up from behind you and handcuff you. I want you to put your right hand, that's your right hand, in the small of your back, and do it now. Keep looking at me! Keep looking at me. Right, your left hand, put your left hand in the small of your back, now. Keep looking at me. You look at me. Look at me. Clean. Okay, it's clear.
All right, Steve. We're police officers from Hampshire. I'm DC Morris, DIU.
I'm arresting you on suspicion of armed robberies. You're not obliged to say anything unless you wish to do so, but what you say may be given in evidence. Do you understand? Do you understand, Steve? Come on.
Okay.
Between December 1985 and May 1986, 3 young women were murdered in what appeared to be quite unrelated cases. Only slowly, in the months of painstaking detective work that followed, did it emerge that one man might be responsible. A serial killer was on the loose. The linking of these cases is an important story. It shows how police inquiries can still depend upon a good hunch, but above all, on help from the public. Using police, forensic scientists, witnesses, and, where necessary, actors, we've reconstructed the crucial stages of the inquiry. The story begins on a Sunday night at the home in Romford in East London of 19-year-old Alison Day.
Thanks, Mum. I better go now because I don't want to keep Paul waiting.
You haven't had your sweet yet?
Oh, I won't have time for sweet. Anyway, I don't want to get fat like you, do I, Dad?
Alison was setting off to visit her boyfriend. She left home at 20 to 6. It was a cold Sunday evening just after Christmas, and the streets were almost deserted. The last part of her journey took Alison on the North London link to Hackney Wick. The train arrived at 7:10. She was now less than 5 minutes from the printers where her boyfriend worked. But Alison never arrived. She simply disappeared.
Of course, each hour of each day was a torture for the parents, the family and the boyfriend, not knowing hour by hour what had happened to her.
Services are back to normal. Police searching for the missing teenager Alison Day have found the body of a woman. The discovery was made this morning by police frogmen searching the River Lee in Hackney. Police say they're treating the case as a murder, but there are no further details at this stage.
She had been tied up, strangled, brutally raped, and her body disposed of by being thrown into the River Lee. She was found after 14 days, and of course by that time there was virtually no forensic evidence whatsoever. We did, however, find one important clue in the river. Purely by chance, a frogman on a training exercise about 200 yards further up from where she was found her coat under the Eastway Bridge.
Well, let's lose anything. It's heavy. Hold on a minute. Looks like it's weighted as well.
Stay on the ladder, mate.
No, it's very, very heavy. Something inside.
In normal circumstances, that wouldn't be much of a clue. It was a fairly ordinary sheepskin coat, and we didn't expect to gain very much from it.
Yes, there is bricks in the pocket. And another brick in this pocket.
At the police forensic laboratory at Lambeth in South London, it took 2 days to dry out before scientists could inspect it.
Well, the coat was muddy and covered with the remains of small animals from the river. This made taping much more difficult than normal. However, we could see that we were picking up fibres on the tapings, some of which might have come from the attacker. So we knew that if the murderer was caught, there was some possibility that we could match fibres on the tapings with fibres from his clothing. But the chances were very slim.
We had no witnesses who saw Alison on the train or at Hackney Wick Station. All the immediate suspects were very quickly eliminated. Nothing else at all. But we did get one interesting fact from the pathologist who carried out the post-mortem examination.
When I was asked to do the autopsy, I found that this lady who'd had ligature around her neck had also had this ligature tightened with a tourniquet. A branch was used from somewhere nearby. In addition to this, there was also a knot which had been tied into the ligature around the front of her neck. in order to tighten the neck even further and to have an effect, therefore, on the voice box. The fact that we had this combination of injuries led us to believe that possibly the person involved may have been someone who knew something about the martial arts, or indeed someone who possibly had been in the armed forces. But of course, at that stage, this was mere speculation.
Three months later, and 30 miles away from Alison's murder, one Thursday afternoon, a Dutch schoolgirl, Martje Tamboza, left her home to buy sweets in the nearby village. She took a short cut along a cinder path that ran along the railway line.
It was probably the worst killing I'd ever seen in my career. She had been savagely raped, subjected to brutal head injuries and strangled. The murderer tried to destroy the body by burning, and it was so horrendous that everybody was absolutely devastated and upset by what they saw. I was of the view that there was no way that we could ever give up in attempting to catch this man, and I actually said at the time that if it cost £2 million, we would still have to find him. It was that important to me and everybody else on the team.
Right, I'm going to pick these up now then, Jamie.
Right, Peter, I'll get them off you.
Right, first of all, the tissue. It's FC21.
Tissue FC21.
Yeah. Now the matches, 2 matches. FC22.
FC22, the matches.
During the course of the examination at the scene, it became clear to me that we were searching for somebody who had deliberately endeavoured to destroy evidence. Here there was a clear attempt to actually destroy the body and also destroy various parts of the body with a view to preventing any police officers or scientists obtaining forensic evidence, which of course gave us an indication that we may be looking for somebody who had experience or had committed a crime of a similar nature before and was aware of what the police were interested in and would be looking for.
A major incident room was set up at Guildford Police Station.
Have you seen this statement here?
Over 120 policemen and women were drafted in to begin Surrey's largest ever murder investigation.
Look at every single inquiry very thoroughly indeed. This is a most serious and horrendous murder which we must detect. And I want you all to look at every item and snippets of it. The other thing is that I must repeat again that we must put everything into the incident room. If we do not, the inquiry falls down. If you store action yourself, we don't know about it and we can't use that information.
Yes, I did see somebody here yesterday over the other side of those trees, standing in a ploughed field, and I noticed him because he didn't have a dog with him.
Could you tell me what he's wearing, please?
Yes, he had a blue parka on, and he was standing in the middle of the field.
Station. I see this line across the path. It was tied there and on this rail. When I looked, there were fewer knots on this side.
Yeah.
So I took the easy way out, untied that side, lifted it across and poked it through the wire and then continued to the station.
Is that as a result of one of the witnesses coming forward the other day who found the fishing line at the point where we think the confrontation took place on the footpath, we must now be very conscious of anybody we're talking to who's involved in fishing or has got a swimmer.
Well, first of all, we felt the crime was local. It had every indications of being a local man, and we would have been surprised if it wasn't local. But then, with this colossal amount of information coming in, we began to realise that we would have to perhaps look elsewhere. And I can indicate that by there were many people who cited a man leaving the village of East Horsley and running across the footbridge for the train, which was the 6:07 train, that evening, and clearly taking the man out of the locality. As a result of that and the amount of work and information we had, we actually tried to trace every single person on that train. That included searching through 2 million railway tickets.
They found dozens of tickets that could have been the killers, but no fingerprints that matched with criminal records. Then came a breakthrough from the forensic laboratory. From semen stains left on Marcia Tamboza's clothing, scientists were able to determine the murderer's blood group.
We could tell that her killer was Group A. In fact, he was an A secretor, which simply means that there are some blood group substances in his semen and his other body fluids.
1 person in every 3 has an A secretor blood group. But another, more discriminating test narrows down the possibilities still further. By measuring an enzyme in the blood called PGM, scientists can divide people into 10 distinct categories.
We could tell that her killer was either group PGM1+, group PGM2+1+, or PGM1+1-. Taken together, this means that the police could eliminate 4 out of every 5 potential suspects by the blood grouping alone.
There was a second crucial piece of expert evidence. Marcia Tamboza's killer had tied her hands with a short piece of string. It was a rare brand made from paper. It's called som yarn, and inquiries revealed that a factory in Preston was the only manufacturer.
The thickness of the paper that the string's made from, between 80 and 90 microns. Now, that's very interesting, actually. It tells me that it's made from Froviforce paper, which we haven't used since 1982. So it's quite an old piece of string that you've got here. The width of the strip of paper, between 17 and 18 millimetres. Now, that's unusual, too. That means it must have been made from an edge strip.
And what does that mean?
An edge strip are the 2 edge pieces as the paper's being cut, and they're always slightly over or slightly undersized, slightly non-standard, in fact. So a combination of the unusual width of strip, the non-standard width of strip, and the age of the paper that's been used means that it's a very, very unusual piece of string that you've got here, probably unique.
Increasingly concerned for the safety of a newlywed woman. Anne Locke, who's been married for just 4 weeks, was last seen on Sunday.
The normal route home is from Waterloo on the tube to Finsbury Park, where she catches a British Rail train to Brookmans. But as time passes, concern for the safety of Mr. Locke's bride of 4 weeks grows.
The woman is Anne Locke, a 29-year-old secretary at London Weekend Television. She was last seen leaving the London Weekend
It's always a worry for every senior investigator that maybe the man that you are hunting has struck again. And there were so many striking similarities in relation to Anne Locke being missing in relation to the inquiry I was investigating that I was very concerned. So concerned that I rang the incident room in Hertfordshire and said, look, I think we better have a chat because there's too many similarities that worry me. They came down to Surrey and we took them out and showed them the scene of our particular murder, and they were very worried that it could be the work of the same person. But of course, until Anne Locke's body was found, no one could be certain. Well, about this time, I appealed to Crimewatch UK for help, and as a result of that programme, a lot of very interesting information came forward. But what was very crucial was that a police officer investigating the murder of Alison Day contacted my boss, Vincent McFadden, with very important and vital information.
I asked him how his victim had died, and he said she had been banged on the head 3 or 4 times. He asked me how ours had been killed, and I said, well, she's been strangled with a ligature. But the strange part, and we've never let this out to anybody, is a tourniquet. And he said, well, how do you mean a tourniquet? And I said, well, a piece of wood put in through the knot in the neck and twisted. And I can hear the silence now.
The penny dropped that a piece of wood that was leaning against the body of Marty Tamboza, instead of being used as an accelerant to burn the body, as I first thought, clearly was part of a tourniquet.
We then called the pathologist to a conference, and Dr. Venices was able to examine Margie Tamboza. Her body was still available, and it was his opinion that the two girls had in fact been murdered by the same person.
Later that month, another link emerged, this time from records of an inquiry called Operation Heart. There'd been a rape close to West Hampstead railway station, where the attacker had used similar techniques.
The links between these two offences were that the hands had been tied, clothing had been cut, and the blood group of the rapist was exactly the same as the murderer. And of course it was part of the Operation Heart series. And we then knew that we were looking for a multiple rapist and murderer.
In fact, Operation Heart had been looking for a pair of rapists, who together had been attacking women mainly in the Camden Town area of North London. By 1985, detectives had linked 27 cases. But after a year without success, the inquiry was on the point of closing down. But Operation Heart had amassed a lot of information about the rapists.
Well, we knew that one was a tall man and one was a short man. We didn't know a great deal about the tall man, but the shorter one was an A secretor blood group, and from witnesses we were told he had fair hair. He'd also given the witnesses information about being in prison and in prison hostels, but we thought a lot of that was deliberate lies to put us off the scent. We also knew that this man often worked alone, and he had a very distinctive methods in the way that he operated. He would always carry a knife, he would engage the girls in conversation before he attacked them, and he would steal property from them on occasions, and he would often attack girls near deserted railway stations. We next set up an index of all known suspects with an A secretor blood group, and we nominated this the Z-men, and it was in this index we expected to find the shorter man, and it was just a matter of weeding him out from those.
Detective Chief Superintendent Vincent McFadden, head of Surrey's CID, now assumed a central role. If the two murders were linked together with the London rapes, then the separate inquiries had to be coordinated. Accordingly, Charlie Farquhar, hunting Alison Day's killer, John Hurst seeking Margie Tamboza's killer, and Ken Worker looking for the London rapists, linked their computers to form one of the largest police inquiries in British criminal history.
All the senior investigating officers were sure that we were looking for a person with a history of sexual offences. In other words, he had a criminal record. That led us to send teams of detectives to trace and interview these sex offenders. And what we would be looking for, of course, would be som yarn, nylon cord, matches, and of course we would require, if we didn't know their blood group, both blood and saliva. In addition, we would closely check their alibis for the relevant dates of these offences.
The 17th of April and the 29th of December? Yes. I can't remember. Do you know your blood group? Well, I think it's O. Well, last time I went to the doctor, he said it was O. Would you mind coming down to the police station and to give us a specimen of your blood?
From the Surrey Constabulary. This is my colleague, Detective Sergeant Buchanan. We're making inquiries in relation to an offence of murder that occurred on the 17th of April 1986, and I believe you can assist me with these...
What am I supposed to have done wrong?
Mr. Taylor, is this the only ball of string in the house?
It's the only one you found, it must be.
I'll continue looking if you don't mind.
We're making inquiries into an offence of murder that happened on the 17th of April 1986.
17th of April?
That's
Nothing
correct,
to do
sir.
with me.
Well, I've reason to believe that you may be able to assist us with our inquiries.
No,
what if we could come in and have a...
No, you can't come in, you've got a warrant.
I haven't got a warrant, so I don't need a warrant to come in and talk to you.
Meanwhile, in London, detectives in the rape inquiry, Operation Heart, routinely interviewed one of their Z-men suspects. His name was John Duffy.
I'd like you to cast your mind back to Thursday, April the 17th of this year. Can you tell me where you were and who you were with on that day?
I can't think that far back. What Thursday of the month would that be?
That would have been the third Thursday.
No idea.
It's the 17th of April, especially. There were a number of reasons why Andy and I didn't like Duffy. He came in with a solicitor, and he was the first person to refuse body samples, which was a bit unusual. Also, he looked remarkably like one of the photo fits we had, especially the profile one. And also, he was very glib in his answers, and trying to be much too helpful. Have you ever been to the Guildford area?
Where's the Guildford area?
It's in Surrey.
So we decided then to take a closer look at him. There were a lot of things against him, really, because he was ginger-haired, whereas our man that we were looking for, we thought from our witnesses, was a fair-haired man. Also, he'd got no previous convictions for indecency other than a serious assault on his wife, of which he was on bail for at that stage. But on the other side of it, I respected Cody and Kelly's feelings about it.
We then heard from Hampstead Police Station that about 3 or 4 hours after we had interviewed him, he'd gone in there complaining that he'd been assaulted and mugged in the street and had lost his memory. We subsequently found out that he had been admitted to Fry and Barnet Mental Hospital, still suffering from amnesia.
So we went down to the hospital to see what the situation was, and we were unable to satisfy ourselves that he was suffering from amnesia or indeed that he wasn't suffering from amnesia. And it wasn't practical to interview him under those circumstances. Duffy, at this stage of the investigation, was a good suspect, but there were other suspects in the inquiry which we thought at that stage could be better.
Police believe that Anne Locke, whose body was found yesterday, may have been killed by the man responsible for 2 other murders and a number of rapes.
It was 10 weeks since she'd disappeared, and her killing bore many of the now familiar hallmarks.
When Anne Locke's body was found, it was decided that this was our man. He had struck again. What little evidence pointed strongly to this fact. This meant that the incident room that I was running had to take over the Hertfordshire police investigation, and we had to re-investigate the whole matter from scratch. We had an awful lot of information come into the inquiry office, and a lot of it was anonymous, but all inquiries had to be followed up. And of course we had some people wanting to confess to the murders. In point of fact, we had one chap ring up and said that his son had confessed to him that he had, in point of fact, thrown Anne Locke off of the train. Well, we knew at that stage, really, that that didn't occur because from the position of her body, there was no way that she was thrown off of the train. But, of course, like all of these inquiries, we had to follow it up. This meant myself travelling down to the West Country and interviewing the man down there. And it would appear, basically, that the father really wanted to get the son out of his house, and the story about the confession was just not true.
We were always concerned that this man would strike again, so we decided to take the attack to him. We mounted a surveillance operation each weekend at unmanned railway stations by bussing hundreds of police officers like the British Transport Police to these southeast regional stations where we felt passengers were at risk.
Steve to Chris, the train's now arriving.
Yeah, received. Anybody getting off?
Yeah, there are 4 people getting off.
Yeah, received.
And everything was going fine until one Sunday, a Sunday newspaper decided to reveal the surveillance operation. Now, that was a shame, because you never ever know with an operation of this magnitude when it's going to pay off. It can pay off at any moment, any day. And there we are. We've had this exposed by a newspaper, and we have wasted a lot of the public's money.
Meanwhile, at Guildford, Surrey police turned to a psychologist who'd already offered suggestions to Operation Heart. By piecing together circumstantial evidence in a scientific way, 2 detectives and Professor David Cantor began to build a profile of the wanted man.
People do change, but the changes that happen to them often are part of things going on in their lives.
Professor Cantor turned out to produce some remarkable insights.
See, from studies that we'd done of other incidents like fires, we knew you can build up a picture of a person and get some understanding of them without actually meeting them. And we felt that there probably was material the police had that a psychologist could do something with. But this was the first time we'd ever done anything like this, and we really didn't know what the police had available to them. And I'm sure they didn't really have any clear understanding of what we might make available to them. So it was a learning experience for both of us. We had information about the sequences of the attacks and the patterning over time. And what we did was to systematise that and to try and produce neat tables that would throw up any patterns that were in there. And when we looked at it more closely, it did seem one might be able to identify some sort of centre of gravity to these crimes that would indicate an area in which he might live. And it turned out to be quite accurate, that he did indeed live in an area really not very far from Finchley Road.
In fact, Professor Cantor gave police a list of 17 predictions about the killer. Among them, not just an idea of where he lived, but his physical description, his friends, and the nature of his work.
By looking at the evolution, we began to get a feeling of a person who had the characteristics of rapists who are attacking because of the nature of their relationships with women that already exist. And this suggested that perhaps he'd had some sort of permanent relationship. But because of the nature of the attacks and many of the details of the way these were carried out, we had the feeling that this was really going to be a very turbulent relationship and unlikely to have been the sort of relationship in which he actually would have had any children.
2 months later, a police dispatch rider brought confidential records analysing previous crimes that might be linked. It was a regular routine, but this time one crime caught John Hurst's eye.
This particular crime, which was a rape at the Copt Hall in North London in 1985, was in so many cases similar to the evidence that was before me in relation to Tamboza, that I really felt that if we could find the person who committed that particular rape, we would seriously want to talk to him about the murder of Marty Tamboza.
Still in London, a violent rape in broad daylight.
In fact, it was a case that had featured in an earlier Crimewatch UK.
It happened at the back of the Copthall Sports Centre swimming pool in Mill Hill on Wednesday the 20th of November. A witness remembers a young man with a dog hanging round the footpath that leads to Pursley Road. You may recognise him. He's only 5'3" tall, about 25 years old, with light ginger hair and pock-marked skin.
If this was the killer, there was at last a good description. A team from the Surrey Inquiry moved up to London.
What we're going to do is then concentrate on the 3 miles, and we'll be looking at vets, local intelligence officers and dog walking areas where a man of this description can be found. There's a suggestion it could be a jockey, so we need to look at riding establishments as well. The other important thing is I don't want to waste any time in coming backwards and forwards to Surrey each day. I want you to start up in London because I'm convinced that the answer lies up there somewhere.
This is an artist's impression of the man who we're looking for. He had with him a dog called Bruce. I wonder if you can have a look through your records and see if you've got anything with that name and that description. So a dog like that, please.
Yeah, I don't recognise the dog at all, but I can have a look for you.
Thank you.
No, the only dog called Bruce we've got is an Alsatian. Doesn't look anything like that, I'm afraid.
We're looking for a small man. Have you seen anybody like that round here looking for work?
No, no one like that.
OK, thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Welcome.
Cheers.
Right, OK, thanks a lot. Cheers.
One of my DCs went to the local intelligence office at West Hendon Police Station, where he obtained a description of a man who fitted the description of the person responsible for the Copt Hall rape. His name was John Duffy, and he was in their records because of an assault on his wife. And because of his description, I felt he was the best suspect we'd had at this stage.
Can you just check a couple of dates against his sickness register?
Sure.
The 19th of August, 85.
It's an annual leave day.
When you get a suspect with a description that fits, the first priority is to gather as much background information on them as possible to see if they can be easily eliminated. So I got my research team to check out his work record, get details of his blood and find out where he was.
In fact, he was still a patient at Fry and Barnet Psychiatric Hospital. But what they didn't know was that he was free to come and go.
I was sure that it was the same man who'd struck again. And of course, the description of the attacker was the same as the man Duffy, who we were looking at for the cop tour.
Well, as you know, he fits the description. He's on bail for a serious assault on his ex-wife. We know he's got an interest in martial arts, and he's also been seen by officers from Operation Heart, and in fact he's one of their Z-men.
What about his blood? I mean, you were looking at his blood.
Well, you know that he's an A secretor. Well, we've checked the PGM and it's right for the cocktail attack and Marty Tamboza and a possible for the girl at Watford.
Are we certain about the blood?
Positive, yeah. Personally checked with the laboratory. And incidentally, he lives within the area predicted by Professor Cantor in the profile.
Clearly, we would only get one chance, and one chance only, to do the job properly and interview him at some length. Otherwise, the thing would fail. And I did not want to just go and arrest him as a suspect without having a look at his mode of living. And with that, I decided to have a 12-man surveillance team look at him for the next two or 3 weeks.
Stand by, stand by. Target out of the premises is in Barlow Road, towards you, 84. I'm inside the main hospital. The eyeball on the target is towards the main entrance on foot.
We knew that, of course, he'd been a patient in Fry and Barnet Hospital, and when we actually started work on him, he was an outpatient attending there, I think, 2 or 3 days a week or more. But that didn't prevent him from doing really what he wanted.
62 TK main gate. I've got the eyeball, The train is at the platform. The target is now onto the train. Footmen are onto the train, which is off, southbound.
Each day I would hear from the surveillance team as to what occurred, whether anything suspicious or unusual had happened. And after about 2 weeks, it became clear that Duffy had probably realised he was under surveillance. That prompted us to see whether or not any crime had been committed, because I was very, very worried. What was very interesting, the following morning when the surveillance team picked him up, he had shaved off his moustache. That then really did worry me, because I then began to realise that he could go out and commit another crime, and we had him under surveillance. So I decided that we must arrest him.
Are you John Duffy?
Yeah.
Police officers from Surrey, being arrested for murder. Take a seat down there, John.
A man is being questioned by police in Surrey tonight about the murder of Anne Locke, the 29-year-old television secretary who disappeared last May and whose body was found 2 months later beside a railway line. It's understood that the man, who hasn't been named, is also being questioned about 2 other murders.
Right, Mr. Duffy, fingerprints and photograph, please.
Once Duffy had been arrested, it was a race against time, because we had to obtain as much hard evidence against him as we could, bearing in mind we only have 36 hours in which to establish hard evidence before going before a magistrate as to whether he should be further detained.
Found that lock in the bedroom.
Okay.
You hold at the ends, about there. Look into the lens.
What's that, John?
I don't know what it's used for. I found it in the street, and I thought it might make a nice little novel pocket knife, you know? Use it for odds and ends and that.
All right. Now have a look at that. What's inside it?
Bit of blue paper.
And what's the purpose of that?
But I couldn't say at the moment. I don't know how long I've had them.
In many of the rapes and in the murder of Martia Tamboza, partially burnt tissues and Swan Vesta matches were found at the scene, which were the offender's attempt to destroy forensic evidence.
John Duffy had been forensically examined by a doctor following the serious assault on his wife, and he clearly knew what the police would be looking for in respect of any forensic evidence.
But of course there was no chance of him ever really destroying the evidence, and then with respect to his ex-wife, the evidence grew.
I was working at a laundrette with this woman and this girl. And I used to come home and there'd be like loads of videos on the floor. It was always violent and blood videos and never anything nice, you know.
Were they martial art type videos?
Yeah, they were always violent and always blood, and I just didn't want to watch anything like that. I didn't want to watch it. At that time, I wasn't really interested in sex, just didn't want him to touch me. And then he'd suddenly get his dressing gown robe and he'd tie my hands up, like with one hand and really quickly, and he forced me to have sex with him. And the more I resisted, the more he seemed to enjoy it. And if I just let him do it, he just seemed to lose interest altogether. And one day he just suddenly said that he'd raped a girl. I mean, I didn't believe him. I mean, you wouldn't, would you? And he said that it was my fault because I was so cold. And then he got this personal stereo and he said that it belonged to her and that she'd enjoyed doing it. And I just didn't believe him.
What would you say, John, if your wife was to give evidence to say that one day you came home and said to her, "I've raped a woman tonight and it's all your fault"?
I've no further comments.
This is your wife. Not me, your wife. She's going to say that you came home one day and said, "I've raped a woman and it's all your fault." If it was a searching question, then he would become very intense and stare at you. And you really have to, with him, make your mind up that this man is not going to intimidate me. And my immediate thoughts were, well, I must feel very, very sorry for those victims of his crimes, because
Many of them have described the way that he looked at them and stared at them, and it's very, very off-putting, I should think, for a young lady to be confronted by him.
Well, at first, I was 100% sure that I didn't want to go through with it. But this wasn't going to beat me.
You have been asked here today to see if you can pick out the person whom you saw on Wednesday the 20th of November 1985 and who assaulted you.
And as I walked into the room, I saw him, and to me everybody else was a blur. His face was the only face I could see in that room.
Do you understand?
Yes. It's number 4.
Thank you very much.
Afterwards, I had no doubts at all that he was my attacker. But I felt relieved, and everybody told me how brave I'd been. I think I knew then that I'd done the right thing in reporting it, just so that, you know, it would never happen to anybody else.
Is the person here?
Yes, it's number 4.
Yes, I think it's number 4.
Mr. Duffy, are you happy with your position, or would you like to change positions? Is the person here?
No. It's number 5.
Would you say that louder, please?
It's number 5.
Thank you very much.
We'd had something like 27 victims which we thought Mr. Duffy had committed offences against. So we tried to get as many of those there that we could, but there were some that were too frightened to come, others just refused to come, and there were a lot of them abroad as well, because we'd had au pair girls over here that had been assaulted by him. So we had the ID parades, and 5 girls did pick him out.
When we went to Duffy's parents' house, which was extremely difficult for them, although they were 100% friendly and cooperative, when we searched the house, it was there that we found the crucial evidence in the Tamboza case.
Peter?
That somyan is very unusual indeed, found in your mother's house, that you use regularly. The same somyan, and surprise, surprise, the laboratory say at 12:30 today, it's the same string that was used in the murder of Marty Tamboza. No ifs, no buts, could be's, possibles, the same. What have you got to say about it?
I'm saying I have no memory.
You're not saying you did murder her? You're not saying you didn't?
That's right.
At no stage did he ever deny being responsible for the offences. He certainly gave no impression that he was disputing anything at all. He just didn't say he did them, didn't say he didn't do them.
The evidence for the Tamboza murder seemed overwhelming, as it was for 5 of the London rapes. But the other 2 murder cases were more difficult to prove.
In the Anne Locke case, there was no forensic evidence. We were relying on the evidence of the other 2 murders to convict John Duffy of Anne Locke's murder. But although we charged him, because we felt it was in the public interest, we often felt that we would lose that part of the case against John Duffy.
In the Alison Day case, the only hard evidence they could hope for would have to come from the forensic laboratory.
We had about 70 items of clothing from Duffy, over half of which were made of fabrics which were not suitable for shedding fibres. But we were able to take about 30 samples and compare the fibres with those that we had from Alison Day's clothing. That's about 2,000 individual fibres.
It's a long and tedious task for the scientists to find comparisons with fibre evidence, and often with no good result. But I realised that the evidence in the Alison Day case was weak, and I thought, we'll ask for the fibre evidence to give us strength to the case if it does turn up. And I thank my lucky stars that I did, because just a few weeks before the trial, the results came through, and we found that we had 13 separate identifications of fibres found in Alison Day from clothing of Duffy. Those fibres were the single most significant piece of evidence in the Alison Day inquiry. In fact, it was virtually a fingerprint.
We were accumulating daily strong evidence against Duffy, and I had no doubt in my mind that he was guilty of these offences. Nevertheless, one of the things that really bugged me was the question of his loss of memory or amnesia. Then came a great breakthrough from the Romford incident room. An associate of Duffy's came forward and told us a story that completely destroyed Duffy's amnesia claim.
John told me he'd witnessed something really bad and that 2 mercenaries were trying to frame him with the police. He said we had to fake that he'd been beaten up and lost his memory. He even wanted me to slash him with a razor. He kept on and on at me to help him. And he was so insistent, he scared me. John was such a good friend and meant so much to me. In the end, I felt I had to help him. As we separated, John said he was trusting me not to tell anyone. Later, John told me I could get done for aiding and abetting, which could result in life imprisonment for both of us if I told anyone and we got found out.
Well, there must be something you want to say about it, John.
Almost 2/3 of all the cases featured on Crimewatch are eventually solved. That is, they result in convictions, often because of crucial clues supplied by Crimewatch viewers. But the outcome of appeals is highly unpredictable and just occasionally perverse. In one case, one of murder, a viewer gave information that turned out to have quite unexpected consequences. More by accident of chance than by design, the call helped lead police towards the killers.
In fiction, murder stories have a gripping opening. In real life, they're rather more mundane. Geoffrey Bixley stopped on his journey through the Ashdown forest to relieve himself behind the trees.
Morning, can I help you? Morning. Just been out for a ride on my motorbike, and I was going through the forest and pulled into this lay-by, and there was a very strange smell. There was just something wrapped in curtaining, something like that. You know, so. Okay, well, show me on the map where it is.
November 491 to KB. November 491 to KB. Can I have scenes of crime and CID and possibly the DI to Pippingford Strait in the lay-by opposite Pippingford Place? I've got something that they ought perhaps have a look at.
At first we thought it was the remains of an animal because there were such small pieces. But it obviously later came out that it was in fact a body. The first thing we had to do really was to identify the body. That's the most important thing. With most murders, you find that the deceased is known, and that in turn leads possibly to the offender and certainly to witnesses.
Nearly half a square mile of forest was subjected to an intensive search, and the gruesome contents of the curtains were gathered up by Dr. Michael Heath.
At Queen Victoria Mortuary, examination of these remains caused a number of problems because the remains have been severely mutilated. The head had been removed, as had the upper limbs and the limbs below the knees.
So back at the lay-by, the scenes of crime officers faced the unpleasant prospect that they might well find other bits of human body.
The cause of death was multiple cuts to the neck, which were consistent with having been caused by a sharp cutting instrument, such as a knife. And further examination revealed that these injuries were inflicted during life. Also, on examination, I showed that she had also been separately stabbed.
She certainly had given birth to a child, and that she had an episiotomy scar. She was blood group O. Now, he told us quite a lot, but if you imagine the vast enormity of the inquiry, I mean, a lot of people fit that description.
So, how do you trace a murderer when you can't identify the victim? The only obvious answer was to find who dumped the body.
I saw a three-wheeled vehicle parked in the lay-by.
One witness thought she'd seen a three-wheel car parked in the lay-by with three men lifting something heavy from the back. It was the strongest lead they had. While some staff gathered and logged information on missing persons, part of the incident room was detailed to list every owner of three-wheeler cars in Sussex and across the county line to Surrey.
Good afternoon, sir. We're CID officers from East Grinstead Police Station. We're carrying out an investigation as occurred down at Ashdown Forest involving a three-wheeler motor vehicle. Is that your vehicle there?
It is, yes.
Do you mind if we have a quick look at it?
Certainly. The difficulty with these types of inquiries, unfortunately, is they are time-consuming, and it's very much down to the instincts of the officer doing the interview as to whether he thinks the person is sort of answering truthfully. We take on all these inquiries. I mean, after all, we are asking the public to come forward and give us information, so it's only right that we should follow up all that they tell us. But it's very much, I'm afraid, like, you know, looking for the needle in the haystack.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm PC Philpott, Crawley Police. We're just doing house-to-house inquiries.
Hello, I'm WPC Lawrence from Crawley.
In the course of the investigation, 150 missing women were either found or eliminated from the inquiry, since their age or height or blood group didn't match. That left 5 women reported missing who could have been the victim, and one in particular seemed promising. She'd vanished from a women's refuge in Portsmouth.
We knew that she'd got quite a number of tattoos on her body. We felt this may have been a reason why the body that we'd got was cut up. In fact, at the end of the day, we took that inquiry as far as we could. We never did find her.
Employers were asked if staff had disappeared, and every milkman and postman in the county found a letter in their pay packet asking if they'd noticed anyone who'd gone missing on their rounds.
We'd had numerous good leads that had come in, but unfortunately most of those fizzled out. And you can imagine by this time the team were really getting frustrated. Morale was a bit low. We'd got other incidents going on. There was another incident room, a murder incident room at Crawley, which of course had cut the staff down. And so there were difficulties.
Brian Grove settled on a final flourish of publicity. TV shops were asked to show a police appeal as their demonstration tape. And 2 weeks into the inquiry, he turned to Crimewatch.
That you may be able to help us identify the victim or her killer if you recognise the materials which were used to wrap her. First, these curtains. One's a floral pattern and the other's blue acrylic. If you look here, you can see that somebody once took up the hem by hand. They're quite...
One viewer was convinced she recognised those curtains, and indeed they could have matched the windows hers were made for. Her call was to transform the course of the inquiry.
She recalled that she'd sold some curtains, like the ones we were showing. The curtains she'd had to alter for her son's flat. And of course the ones we'd got had been altered. But she'd sold these at a Crawley boot sale. This, from my point of view, was important because what it did at that time, as I said, morale had been low, forces were depleted, they were on other jobs, and really I was looking towards either extending the inquiry nationally or closing down altogether. Now, this immediately gave me heart. I mean, I felt we were very close to something.
He was right, but only because of a remarkable coincidence. The focus of the inquiry switched to Crawley, where the boot sale had taken place. Officers were drafted in, there were posters, and to local people, it seemed police were everywhere. One Crawley resident reacted by seeing his solicitor.
Take a letter, please, to Crawley Police Station. We act for Mr. Kassem Lachal of Greenwich Close, Broadfield, Crawley, who has recently been released from Ford Open Prison on parole. Mr. Lachal lives at the above address with his wife and children, and there is another wife who he married in Morocco and who he regards as a common-law wife in this country. Her name is Latifa Lazar, Lazar, and until recently she was living at Ramsey Court, Broadfield, with her son, who is the son of another man.
Come in. Hello, Governor. I've got a letter from Firma Solicitors. Breakthrough we've been waiting for, I reckon. Missing woman. Missing since mid-August. Moroccan. Supposed to have returned to Morocco, never been seen since.
Certainly looks good, doesn't it? Has she got any previous at all, have we done so?
Yeah. She's got a con for shoplifting.
What's her height?
5'3". Everything fits.
There's a chance she might have an immigration file.
Yeah.
So we'll check with immigration, see what they've got.
Right.
The other thing is I see she's got a local address. Looks as if she's been here for some little time, so she may have a local doctor,
right.
So GP. We ought to try the local hospital, because I suppose she's got a son.
Yeah. Hospital, GP and immigration, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing is, I mean, don't want to play it down, it looks good. I mean, it's just what we've been after. I think, though we must keep our feet firmly on the ground, we've had these sort of leads before.
Latifa was 26 when she vanished. She'd come to Britain with her first husband, but had been divorced. 5 years later, she married Hassam Lashal, but since he was already married, the wedding took place in Morocco, where polygamy is legal. She kept her own house nearby in Crawley, but the two wives had lived together while Hassam had been in prison for smuggling cannabis.
Mr. Lachelle?
Yes?
I'm DC here. This is WDC Fitzgerald, both from Crawley Police Station. It's about your wife, Latifa.
Ah.
Can we come in, please?
Come in.
Thank you.
Sit down, sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello?
Hello.
أنا بدي جاي أشوف على بالك.
Mr. Lakar, we've come here today to talk to you about Latifa, who you reported missing to your solicitor. As with all missing persons, we have to fill in a missing person report. So could you just give me her full name, please?
الأزهر لطيفة.
Could you spell that for me?
L-A-Z-A-A-R.
Latifa.
لطيفة.
Thank you. Do you know her date of birth?
وين مزايدة هي؟
18
18 of August 1960.
Where was she born?
Morocco.
And when did you last see Latifa?
On Sunday, the 17th of August, at Ramsey Court.
All right, thank you.
So why are you reporting Latifa missing?
I told my solicitor because I was let out of prison on parole on the 13th of August 1986, and I'm warned that her disappearing may be linked to me.
Until October, we thought she was in Morocco, but a friend, he come from Morocco.
He say, Latifa, she's not there.
I see. Can you give us a description of Latifa for the missing person report, please?
Yes. She's about 5'2", dark, curly, collar length hair. She has a big scar on her neck. She got earrings, golden earrings.
Is there anything else at all?
I can't remember.
After about 10 days, we'd really covered all the inquiries we could do without physically speaking to somebody. We'd got 5 houses where she had been connected, so I made the decision that we would on one day go to all those houses, arrest the occupants of those houses, all of whom had had some connection with her.
It was a gamble. There was only circumstantial evidence, and little of that. Even so, Brian Grove could see no other way of going forward. Other members of the family were almost immediately released, but the Lachals could now be held for 36 hours before police must charge them or take them before a court.
Since the 31st of August 1986, I've been engaged on inquiries concerning parts of a female body found in Ashdown Forest, East Grinstead. From my inquiries and from the forensic evidence, I'm satisfied that these human remains are those of Latifa Lazar. Can you tell me anything about this lady's disappearance?
The only thing I know that she told me that she's going to Morocco for a divorce.
From who?
From me.
When was the first time Kassim knew that Latifa was definitely going to Morocco?
On Friday.
Who told him?
She told him.
Latifa told him.
Yes, she told us.
When was that? At the dinner party?
After.
Who was there when Latifa said she was going to Morocco?
No one. Just me and Kazem. Everyone had gone.
Mark, how does this story from the interviews Mr. Winton's had with Kasem fit in with Fatim's story?
It's much the same. She says that on the Friday of that weekend, they had a dinner party at the address. Kassim was there, the children were there to start with. She says the first time that Latifa mentioned that she was going to Morocco was at that party, but conveniently it's after everyone else has left. The children are in bed, everyone else has gone, Kassim is there, Fatima's there, and Latifa is allegedly there. Did Latifa say how long she was going for?
No.
The story given by Kassim and Fatima was that Latifa had returned to Morocco. Now, we also got this from neighbours who we spoke to, some had been told, in fact, that she'd returned to Morocco to go to a wedding. There was another story that she'd gone to Paris. Really, there were indications from them that she had left this country.
Good afternoon. PC Tompkinson from East Grinstead.
This detective traipsed round 50 travel agencies to see if anyone of Latifa's name or description had bought a ticket.
I'll just check them for you. No, I'm sorry, we don't hold a reservation under that name.
What was she going to do with her little boy?
She was going to take him with her. She never said to me, you look after him.
Do you know what flight she took to Morocco?
No.
Did you ever see any flight tickets at all?
She got to Crawley Saturday morning, but I never asked her what she doing.
Was that Saturday the 16th of August?
Yes, she went in the morning.
Latifa went to Crawley the following day to pick up the tickets. She doesn't know what flight she took, though. She doesn't know where she went for the tickets. I've asked her how she paid for the tickets, and conveniently, again, she hasn't got a chequebook. So she's left us no sort of redress to recheck and to find out how she's paid for these tickets, i.e. by cheque or credit card or anything like that. And it seems strange to me that she should tell them on the Friday night, and on the Saturday she's straight into Crawley to buy these tickets that no one's ever seen. Is there anything else that happened on that Saturday?
No. When she come back, she just takes some clothes, then she go.
Where did she go? To her home address in Ramsey Court?
Yes.
You didn't go round there with her?
No.
Where was Kassim at the time?
My husband, he takes some bag with some shoes. He took them with her and then he come back.
What time did Kassim go with Latifa to Ramsey Court?
About 6, 6:30.
Did he say anything about Latifa when he got back?
He said nothing, no.
Did you ask him about Latifa?
No, because she just left my place.
Did you ask how she was getting on with her packing?
No, I did not.
Am I right in suggesting that on Saturday the 16th of August you were all going to Littlehampton?
No, on Sunday it was. I want to hire a manta for a weekend.
What, a GT Manta?
Yes.
Something like the white one over there?
That's okay, yeah.
Okay, for the weekend it's £45.
In the end, who went to Littlehampton?
We went to Brighton first, then we went to Littlehampton. I was with my wife Fatima, Latifa's child, and my little girl. Latifa was meant to come with us, but she had packing to do.
Was she packing, intending to return to Morocco?
Yes.
Kassim, during interview, had said that that weekend, the 16th to the 18th of August, he had hired a car. This was to take the family for a drive, but also he had taken some rubbish which Latifa, he said, had asked him to the tip. Now, I was still looking for quite a lot of the body, so this interested me. I did look at the possibilities of digging the tip up, but at the end of the day, scientists told me this would really be an impossibility. We would have been looking back over 2 months, and the amount of rubbish and the amount of gases that would have been there really made the job impossible.
I went back, had a cup of tea. They were having tea also. I believe my wife asked Latifa to come with us. She said she was still packing. I did see a suitcase on the table. She asked my wife if we could take the little boy with us to give him a bath.
After the women had drunk tea, they returned to his
own address, and they took her little boy with them, that's Latifer's little boy, to have a bath, and she stayed there doing some packing. He says there was a suitcase on the table. I mean, this is where it's a figment of his imagination. She was no more packing to return to Morocco at that stage. This is where the story deviates from the truth.
When I wake up on a Monday morning, I find the key in the book in the front door.
Do you mean the child benefit book?
Yeah.
What time did you notice these through your door?
Oh, 9 in the morning, something like that. I don't know the time. I don't usually wake up early when the kids are on holiday.
Why do you think they've been put through your door?
I don't know. She didn't tell me nothing before.
But you understand, as I understand it, that she'd flown to Morocco.
Yes. Because she phoned me on a Monday, sometime after lunch, from London Heathrow.
On the Monday, she said she got a phone call in the afternoon from Latifer. She said that Latifer was phoning from Heathrow, telling her that she was going to Morocco and asking her to look after the little boy and to sort arrangements out with the former husband.
In fact, there were no flights from Heathrow to Morocco on that Monday. But Fatima rang a friend to get a number for Latifa's first husband to persuade him to come and take away his son.
I have 5 kids. How can I look after him as well? Just give me the number, okay?
What did she say?
She said no. She don't know the phone number.
Qassem and Fatima's story of Latifa going back to Morocco and not taking her son with her just didn't really make sense. Friends told us that she was very attached to him. Although she'd left him on occasions with people, she really seems to have been quite a good mother. The time that she went was her birthday, and she didn't really say to any of her friends, some of whom are Moroccans, that she was going to return to Morocco.
What is known is that 2 days after Latifa was last seen, Qassem and his brother finally made contact with Latifa's first husband. The two men didn't like each other much, and the meeting was a tense one.
Have you found your sister, then? Why? But your son? Why? What happened to him? I want you to collect him. Where is his mother? She has gone abroad and left me.
What part of abroad?
She's gone to France.
When did she go to France?
Last Saturday.
Why did she go to France?
We had a big argument over money.
She has gone abroad. Believe me.
The child's father was very keen to have his son back, but suspicious of taking him without official custody. He insisted the social services should be involved.
Where is the child?
In my place.
Will you take him to the social worker and I'll contact my solicitor as soon as I can?
We don't want to get involved with social workers. You make the arrangement about your son, with us.
What has this got to do with you to make arrangements with me, huh?
Come with me to a solicitor when I will hand over the child and be a witness for you.
No, it's got nothing to do with you or any solicitor. I said, take him to a social worker.
But later that day, the child's father, having seen a social worker for advice, did come to collect his son. He also agreed to take back all the contents of Latifa's home. It was furniture they'd bought together when they'd been married. It was a council house, and Qassem told the housing office Latifa would not be coming back. But no sooner had new tenants been put in than the murder squad came round.
Well, sometime after the original offence, certain evidence came to light to suggest that this might be the house where the unfortunate lady met her end. And so we had sort of carte blanche instructions to go there and turn the place upside down, starting from the front door and working our way in and taking as long as necessary to find if there was anything worth finding.
At the time we went there, the house had been taken over by new occupiers, and we were met at the door by the new female occupant. And I asked her if there was anything strange in the house when she moved in, anything she noticed that was strange, and she came out with the classic comment, only the blood in the bathroom.
The new tenants had to be moved out as the scenes of crime officers moved in.
We were searching throughout the house for any minute traces of blood, and in order to do this, we applied what we call a KM test. This is a field presumptive test that we can carry out at the scene. We apply alcohol, Castle-Meyer reagent, and hydrogen peroxide to a suspect stain. If we get a pink positive reaction, then that's a good indication that we found blood.
Other officers went through the estate to question residents. Had anyone seen anything or heard anything unusual?
Hello there. We're making door-to-door inquiries about Latifa Lazar. Do you know her at all?
Yes. I heard Latifa went to Morocco. And I asked why did she go to Morocco, and I've been told because she's going to a wedding. So I didn't take no notice until a couple of days later. I asked again, and I've been told she's gone to Morocco. But I heard that she left the boy, and I was very surprised when I heard she left her son behind.
Dr. David Northcott attended the scene and advised us on various items that he would like submitted to him for further examination.
And those included all sorts of things like lavatory seats, wash hand basins, even the floorboards.
In fact, we took the whole of the bathroom floor up in 6 sections and submitted that complete. Also, the original bath had been removed by the council in view of the fact that it was damaged. I believe it had a gash in it.
You put Latifa's body in the bath at Ramsey Court, didn't you?
No, sir.
That's why we found blood under the bath.
I have no idea about blood, sir.
After you cut the body up, you wrapped it in these blue curtains and the floral ones, which we know were in Ramsey Court, didn't you?
No, sir.
You and Fatima have made up a story to fit the facts, haven't you?
No, sir.
I suggest you've sat there for 2 days and told a tissue of lies.
I didn't tell lies, sir. I didn't.
You killed Latifa, didn't you?
No, sir. I didn't kill anybody. No, sir. No, I didn't.
Well, I put it to him that he put the body in the bath, which he just denied. And then I put it to him about the blood under the bath. First hint of emotion comes in here. I mean, he's calm and polite all the way through. He denies he has any knowledge of it. So then I showed him the curtains. And he started getting a bit het up then, and his voice raised, and we got the start of some tears. He still denied any knowledge of it, but we at least got some emotion out of him.
The police had found a slither of carpet at the shallow grave in the forest. This was about 1 inch by 1/8 of an inch in size. They sent us 3 similar-looking pieces from the bathroom of the house, which had been found under the skirting board. So the object of the exercise was to compare the single piece from the forest with the 3 that had been recovered from the house. This I did by taking the fibres off the pile and mounting them on a microscope slide, so that the 2 specimens taken from the 2 different sources could be seen at one and the same time and compared using a binocular eyepiece.
Here was the proof that the shred of carpet from the lay-by in Ashdown Forest was the same as specimens of carpet discovered in Latifa's bathroom.
This shows the floor of the bathroom of the house. The bath was there, the toilet was just here, the wash basin was there, and the police took from just here a small section of the flooring on which they had noticed blood staining. Once we've taken the blood off the item under examination on a piece of thread like this, that can then be used for a variety of tests, including one which establishes whether or not the blood is of human origin. And on this plate, the fact that a line has appeared here shows that the blood was of human origin. And the applicability of the test is confirmed by the fact that the 2 samples placed here and here gave negative reactions with animal blood. We can then go on to group the blood, and this test is one of a series which can be used to establish the blood group of the blood in question. And on this plate, the blood from the torso is in this track, and the blood from the bathroom is in this track, and you can see that they have given the same pattern, confirming that the blood from the torso could be from the same person as the blood in the bathroom. We compared the blood taken from the torso with samples taken from various members of the family, and by constructing a family tree and referring to the missing link, we were able to establish that the torso could have fitted into the family tree. And here, one of the panels of the bath, showing on the side a number of bloodstains which have dripped down the panel, showing that they have been sprayed from an act of violence. This was one of a set of family photographs I was sent to examine. The lady in the picture is Latifa Lazar. She was known to be 5'3" high. We were able to measure the height of the room at the house, and from that work out the length of the curtains in the picture. We were able to compare the weave with the weave of the curtain found in the forest, and both were found to be made up of a series of very thin white vertical lines which were in the weave of the cloth. So we found then that the curtain which had been recovered from the forest was of exactly the same proportions as far as the hem was concerned as the curtain in this picture here. And this confirmed that the curtain in the forest was very probably the one which was shown in the photograph.
So the Crimewatch viewer who'd identified these as her own had been mistaken. Yet, quite by chance, she'd brought police to the murder victim's doorstep. Latifa also owned the other curtains her torso had been wrapped in. A friend recalled she'd chosen them from a mail order catalogue. So the curtains were now identified. The victim was known, and she'd been killed in her own house. But who had killed her? Neighbours remembered someone had been hanging washing in the garden on the weekend Latifa had disappeared. But it wasn't Latifa.
Cassim, did you kill Latifa?
No, sir. I wouldn't kill a mouse. God is my witness.
Are you sure you didn't have an argument that weekend and a terrible accident occurred?
No, sir.
"5 months after Latifa had been killed, Qassam was charged with murder. Some months later, in Morocco, Latifa's family met detectives sent from Sussex and handed them a letter. It came from Latifa and was dated after police assumed she'd died, but her brother was convinced it was a forgery. It yielded up 5 fingerprints, but none of them was Latifa's.
Mark 5 is Qassem's right thumb. Close to the mark is a fold along the paper. I made a photostat copy of the letter indicating the position and direction of the mark, and also a fold on the letter itself. I found it impossible to put my thumb in the right position and at the right angle to show more of the right-hand side of the print. When the paper is folded, it was quite possible to place the thumb at the right angle in the right direction. I was therefore of the opinion that this mark could only have been placed after the letter had been folded, or in fact while the letter was being folded.
Whilst in Morocco, the family mentioned that Qassem had been in touch with them to try and get any letters written by Latifa sent to him. Now, the story he gave to them was that they were to be given to the police. Well, I mean, we just wouldn't ask a suspect to get any letters. If we want to get them, we'll get them ourselves.
Then, 2 weeks before the trial, the final proof that Latifa was dead. This man was clearing a path after the October storms when he came across a human skull.
Inquiries were made by the police to see if the particular lady had had any x-ray pictures of her skull taken in hospital previously. And as a result of the police inquiries, a set of x-ray pictures were brought along to the department which showed the frontal sinuses of the known individual. The frontal sinus is an airspace in this part of the forehead of a person, and obviously it cannot be seen unless an x-ray picture is taken of it. I then had an x-ray picture taken of the skull, the unknown skull, shall we call it at the present moment, in which I presented the frontal sinuses, and a complete tracing was made of the frontal sinus of the individual. A number of these tracings are produced so that we can make comparisons from one to the other and then in reverse. And then, having had one of the best tracings made, we then can place it over the frontal sinus of the known person. In this way, we can say that we have a positive identification because 95% of the adult population have frontal sinuses which are characteristic of the individual.
At the time of the trial, we had a lot of circumstantial evidence against them. For example, with Kassem, there was his version as to when he last saw Latifa, when he last went to Ramsey Court. We had witnesses who were able to prove otherwise. There was the letter we brought back from Morocco. He wasn't able to account for his fingerprint being in that unusual position on the letter. There's also a witness who was able to talk about him womanising and, in fact, using violence against her. With regard to Fatima, we had the evidence that she received the phone call, supposedly from Latifa on the Monday evening from Heathrow Airport, when in fact we know that by this time Latifa was dead. There's also, it's only her evidence that tells us that the family allowance book and the key were put through the front door. I think one should remember that with circumstantial evidence, it's not just one piece of evidence, it is a number of pieces of evidence which make up the case.
When I heard what did it happen for Latifa, I was very, very shocked. I couldn't sleep nights. I couldn't believe it is her. I don't know why it did happen. Could be lots of reasons. Could be because Latifa wanted to get rid of his wife, back to Morocco to stay with Kassim. Could be jealousy. And I think he was obsessed with her.
On Monday, the 20th of January, 1986, police were called to a house in the Lake District where they found the body of a 67-year-old woman. She appeared to have been the victim of a frenzied attack. Cumbria police quickly identified a suspect, but they had no hard evidence against him and no idea where he was. They also had new rules restraining their inquiries. This was to become the first murder in the country to be investigated under the new Police and Criminal Evidence Act. Eventually, they turned to Crimewatch. In the film that follows, the police officers who were involved, along with many of the witnesses, reconstruct the investigation of the murder. Some roles are played by actors, and we've not used the full names of 2 key witnesses in order to protect their privacy. Crimewatch File shows how real detective work is not the stuff of Sherlock Holmes-type intuition, but of persistence and of a close relationship between the public and the police.
Fine rock's difficult. It's like my sky. I need plenty of practice in there. They're all in the midst of it today, but if I come another day, then I can get that. That rock's marvellous, though. And look at that light going over to the side there. It's
yes. I find it a problem making that looking realistic, too, that sort of light.
Well, we can always come back when there is a bit more light on it. Well, the things in the distance, you let them fade and fade and fade until they get back up into the sky.
You should have taken it up professionally, you know. You're very good.
I'd have it like that. Yeah. Start all over again.
Yeah.
There we go. And keep the work going.
I will. Bye. And you.
Bye.
Bye.
This ticket's only valid as far as Candle.
What do you mean only as far as Candle?
This is a Red Rose Rambler ticket,
yeah.
And it's not valid beyond Candle.
I paid for a ticket to Ambleside.
No, it's only valid for travel as far as Candle.
Look, if I wanted a bloody ticket to Candle, I would have taken one, wouldn't I? This is access going to cost me.
Candle to Ambleside. £1.45, please. Thank you.
I'll join you.
See your happy problems.
It was a man that once you'd seen, you never forgot. The eyes especially, they just pierced into you, you know. Every move you made, it was as if he was watching.
Takeaway pizza. I'll have a zaffarelli.
£2.50, please.
This is Bronwyn Nixon. That night, some 3 hours later, a quarter of a mile away on the outskirts of Ambleside, she was murdered in her cottage in the grounds of the hotel she owned. Her home was ransacked, her car was driven off. 8 hours later, 60 miles away, in Preston.
Went out the main A6 road. To cross it, I had to wait for a slower moving car. He was driving down in the outside lane. We both approached the traffic lights and pulled up in the same lane, and I felt like somebody was watching me. Looked at the car next to me, and he was turning round, just literally staring at me. Very piercing eyes. A really uncomfortable feeling about it, and at that point the traffic lights changed and I pulled away.
Mike Davey and Cheryl Heselton from Forensic.
Okay. Mrs. Nixon's car's missing.
What have you done about that?
Well, I've circulated it to all forces this time. It's a blue Honda, a V-Reg Honda. It's gone out in the last hour.
Last hour?
Nothing back from it yet.
Yeah. No, you have plenty of men coming.
Yeah, 9 o'clock the briefing.
Right, I'll do that briefing.
Right, sir.
Mike Davey and Cheryl Heselton from Forensic. Yes, sir.
Hello, Mike.
Hello, Jim.
Nice to see you again.
Thank you. That's Cheryl Heselton.
Hello, Cheryl. How are you? All right?
Right. Let's have a look at the body.
Body first, one.
Let's go upstairs. What's happening?
Go upstairs and see where it is. Okay. Right, a lot of work here for you. When it was found, it was actually lying face down.
Right.
The son turned the body over just to see if there was any sign of life, actually. Start at the feet. You'll see it's bound with electric cable.
Yes.
Hands bound with electric cable.
Mm-hmm.
And the neck. It's a bit of a mess. She'd been there some time as well, actually. So it's...
Not too fast on the right.
Well, I'll fill you in on what we've got so far, anyway. You've obviously seen most of it already.
Oh.
We found 2 areas of blood staining on door frames downstairs. We've got blood inside that downstairs toilet bowl. And on the lid of that toilet, which you probably didn't see, there's a glove mark. The Soccos have brought that up and tape lifted it.
It's not a fingerprint?
No, it looks like leather glove or something like that. We've taped all the edges. We've also taped the walls going up the stairs because there's flock wallpaper on. You know, wallpaper wouldn't normally retain any fibres, but if whoever has brushed against that as he's gone up the stairs, then we stand a chance there with fibres. But otherwise, until we get back to the lab, I think there's not a lot we're going to be able to tell.
Now, what we are inquiring into is a clear case of murder. Now, the whole scene's been videoed, and you'll be given the opportunity to see that much later. We're inquiring into the death of Bronwyn Nixon, a woman aged 67 years, whose body was found by her son Stephen at 10:15 p.m. last night. She was last seen alive at 5:45 p.m. yesterday by a friend. A post-mortem has been carried out during the night by Dr. Garrett, the Home Office pathologist, and although, as I've already indicated, Mrs. Nixon was subjected to extreme violence and had been stabbed incidentally, the cause of death is actually strangulation. I'd like you now to go and see the allocator. The actions are already there. I'd like you to get them, get out, carry on with your inquiries, and let's have this person locked up as quickly as we can. When you live in a rural area, one of the things you have to do is to gather the men up during the night so that you get them there at a decent time in the morning. We're always faced with time and distance in rural areas, so we would gather up the task force to do the house-to-house inquiries, things like bus stations, railway stations, licensed premises, checking hotel staff, people who stayed at the hotel. There's always plenty of work in the first 2 days in any inquiry.
We're making some inquiries about an incident that happened at Ambleside just recently.
We're particularly interested in a Honda motor vehicle.
What about suspicious people? Was there anybody that caught your eye who acted suspiciously
on Monday?
You say you left Mrs. Nixon's about 5:30, 5:45. That's Sunday night.
About that.
Did anybody see you leaving?
Well, she did.
Apart from Mrs. Nixon, was there anyone else there?
No, not aware of, no.
When you say you got home, who can confirm what time you got home?
Well, there was nobody in, actually, when I arrived, but I mean, you know, somebody must have seen me driving up.
Did you stop anywhere on the way back?
Yeah, yes, I stopped at a filling station to get some chocolate. I didn't fill up.
And where was that at?
Oh, God, I don't know. I mean, it's on the Kendal bypass.
Yeah. You went to work the following morning? Yeah. What time did you finish work?
I don't know, about 6, perhaps 6:30.
What did you do after you work?
Are you trying to suggest something? Are you saying I had something to do with it? I've been at Kendal Police Station the other day for the best part of a day asking you questions. Now you come down here and you go through all the things. What's the matter? Are you trying to say that I murdered her or something?
As far as we're concerned, Mr. Cleverley, you're the last person to see her alive. We have to clear your movements in that house.
John Cleverley was a suspect simply because in the vast majority of murders, the last person to see the victim alive is very often responsible. So Cleverley was arrested. He was brought to Kendal. He was interviewed. We had him in custody for something like 15 hours. And we had to be satisfied that he was either implicated, and if he wasn't, then he's clearly eliminated. And if that's how long it takes to do it, well, so be it.
Next day, at Preston bus station.
2004 to Preston. 2004. Give me a vehicle check, please.
Go ahead.
Tango Echo Charlie, 909 V Victor. It could be a blue Honda Accord. Tango Echo Charlie. Go on.
Yes, confirmed that's the blue Honda Accord. Site is wanted on behalf of Cumbria Constabulary.
Roger, thanks for that. It's on the second floor of the bus station car park at the moment. We'll keep it on the...
A search for evidence began in Preston. Meanwhile, back at Mrs. Nixon's hotel, they were interviewing staff. The hotel was closed for renovations and most staff had gone home. But some 20 miles away, a waiter, having heard about the murder, contacted the police. He had a chilling feeling that he might know who the killer was, a man who'd stayed with him in the staff quarters of the hotel.
I first met Wynne about 4 months before the murder, and when I met him, he had nowhere to stay, and I was working at Ambleside at the Rothay Manor, and we got on quite well as friends, and he came back and stayed in my room because I was working there as a waiter. I was living in not a very large room. It was okay for one, but for two, for a length of time, and the way that he went on, how he was to me, it got to be really bad, and I felt just like a hostage in my room, you know. And then I just decided, so one morning I woke up and I thought, right, you know, this is the day, this is the morning.
What are you doing down here?
Just reading.
Hello, Andrew. You still here?
Well, come on back to the room. I want to talk to you.
I do not want... I'm not going back to the room.
I bloody want to talk to you. That's not too much to ask, is it?
I've already had one black eye. I don't want another one.
I've already apologised for that. Look, you coming back or what?
No, I'm not. Anyway, I'm waiting.
What are you waiting for?
I rung my father. He's coming to pick me up and take me home.
Well, you could tell your bloody father you're not coming.
I'm going home.
No, come on, Andrew. Let's go.
I'm going home, Wynne.
See, Mrs. Nixon's in the hotel. They tell you to jump, and you jump. There's a few things I could tell them about you. You wouldn't like that, would you?
I've made my mind up. I'm going home, and that's that.
I've got your clothes. Taking your money. Your keys are in the river.
I was relieved because I thought, well, if that's the last of him, that's it. But I wasn't sure that it was going to be that easy, deep down. A week and a half later, I think it was, he rung up. That was late one night, and he said that he wanted to meet me. So I decided to meet him because he said he wanted to give me these items of clothing back.
Hello.
Where have you been?
I'm sorry I'm late.
I've been waiting over half an hour.
Yeah, well, the car was late. I had to catch a train.
Did you bring my stuff?
Yeah, I've got it here.
Wyn, you're wearing half the stuff I'm supposed to be taking back.
I'm sorry. Come on, let's go for a drink.
I don't want a drink. Just give me what you've got. My dad's waiting in the car.
Your father's waiting in the car? Well, tell him to go home.
No. Just give me my stuff. I'm leaving. You got anywhere to stay tonight?
No.
If you walk back up Windermere Road, there's a place on the left, about 100 yards. It's called Holly Cottage. There's probably have a room there.
Thanks.
As soon as I heard that Mrs. Nixon had been murdered, my gut feeling was that he'd done it deep down. Yeah, obviously, I didn't want to believe that. I didn't want to believe that she'd been murdered, obviously, because, I mean, she's my boss and we got on really well, and I was going back to the hotel, you know, and they'd offered me a better position at the hotel. But deep down, because of the way that he was with me, how he treated me, and just that he was violent, and things that he'd said about Mrs. Nixon, I felt deep down that was, that he'd done it.
Just take a seat over there, please.
I mean, for the first few days I didn't go to the police because I had no evidence to go on.
So how long have you worked at the Rothy Manor Hotel?
For about 6 months.
And what's your job there?
I'm just an assistant in a restaurant.
For a time they tried to question me, to eliminate me. It was a bit difficult. I mean, that people would even think that of you, you know.
When Andrew came forward, his statement was extremely important because at that stage all we had was a body, an enormous amount of inquiries to do, but he produced the name of this man, Roberts.
Andrew told detectives that after Wyn had left the Rothay Manor 10 days before the murder, he'd gone to Blackpool. Teams of detectives were immediately dispatched there. Every guest house in Blackpool had to be checked. Where was Wyn? And even if he'd moved out of town, had he left behind incriminating evidence?
I think we've got something here, and one's got a conviction for murder.
You got a photo?
No, I haven't got one.
Right. Yeah, boss? Yeah, it's Alan Ruddick.
Hello, Alan. You're still at Blackpool?
We've got a fella here, Wyn Roberts, with a previous for murder.
Have you?
Yeah, do you want his details?
David Wyn Roberts was just 14 when he murdered in 1969. He was one of two sons of a highly respected family who still live in the village of Valley outside Holyhead on Anglesey. When Mrs. Sarah Hughes, who lived at a bungalow in 4 Mile Bridge on the island, was found murdered, local police were baffled. The youth eventually turned out to be Roberts. The police officer in charge was John Hughes, former head of North Wales CID, who was since retired.
He stabbed an old lady of over 80 years of age several times with a bread knife. There was a quality of stubbornness about him which I found very unusual for a boy of his age. And this was highlighted in the assize court when he was dealt with at Carnarvon, when Mr. Philip Wyan QC cross-examined him solid for 3 to 4 hours. And yet he never got an inch of admission out of him.
The murder had been committed in similar circumstances as this one, so he actually went to the top of our list.
Police established that he sometimes went to the Flamingo, a gay club in Blackpool Centre. If he showed up now, detectives would be waiting.
We had the 2 of the biggest policemen we had in there. They stood out like sore thumbs.
we're down in Blackpool now trying to find a lad who you may or may not know. We think he comes in here. He's called David Wynne Roberts.
The most distinctive feature about him, he's got a big Mexican-style moustache, very, very bushy. Similar to yours, but much more bushier. Would that help you at all?
Not really, because you get quite a few people in with quite bushy tashes, sort of through the week, and especially weekends.
Over 500 members helped with the inquiry, and one of them was Chris. He'd been with David Wynne Roberts at the Flamingo the night before the murder.
The Flamingo, it's notorious for a haunt for homosexuals, isn't it? Is Wynne Roberts homosexual?
Has he done something wrong?
Are you a homosexual?
Like...
Look, we're all men in the world. There's nothing to be frightened about, is there?
You continue looking at this, Peter. Don't worry about this. I'm only jotting a few notes down, so, you know, don't worry about saying anything.
Are you yourself a homosexual?
Well, has there been an accident or something?
I mean, it's difficult to admit to two strange fellas that you're homosexual. I accept that. We aren't going to be embarrassed. I'm quite sure you aren't. Are you a homosexual?
Yeah.
As I said, there's nothing to worry about. So you met Wynne in the club that night. Was that before or after your friends had left?
After they went about midnight.
When you left the Flamingo Club, where did you go to?
To the Lord's Hotel.
The Lord?
Yeah, it's in Yates Street.
In Blackpool?
Yeah.
Is this where he was staying?
Yeah.
How did you get there?
In my car.
So you both went in your car?
Yeah.
So you spent the night with him at the Lord's?
Yeah.
How would you describe that night? What was his attitude?
It was like he was insecure. He just wanted to hold me, and he was quite passive. He sort of gives. He looks butch, but he's not really.
Yeah. So what time did you get up the next day?
I woke up about 9 o'clock, and I wanted to go then. He seemed weird, like I don't know, like he was on drugs or something.
You come down out of the room, and you're walking back towards your car. Where did you last see Wynne Roberts at?
He come downstairs with me, and as I was going up to the car, I said, give us a ring, and he just said, yeah, okay, and then he went into the lounge and sat with a group of people.
Have you seen him since then?
No. He telephoned me.
Yeah?
It was the same day. I just got home and I'd fell asleep for a bit.
Yeah.
And it was quite early because I hadn't had my tea. It was about half past 4.
So, you don't want to come out for a drink tonight? Yeah, okay. But you'll phone me? Yeah, when? Yeah. Okay, bye.
That was 5 p.m., roughly 6 hours before the murder. David Wynne Roberts then set off for Ambleside. But why? A Home Office forensic psychiatrist has a theory. Kevin McGuigan.
I suspect what had happened was that the man has developed with a personality that's extremely fragile, and it construes events in his life as having more significance for him than it would for you or I. And a failed one-night stand and that he'd hoped would develop into a relationship was extremely unsettling. He'd gone to achieve a reconciliation with an ex-relationship. That hadn't happened, and I think he blamed it all on the old lady who ran the hotel. Given the fact that he'd already killed an old lady once before, and that perhaps he achieved poor relationships with females and most other people, it seems, she was a natural target, and I think he displaced all of his anger, all of his frustrations into this old lady and repeated his crime of many years before.
No, drop everything else. I want you to go to Lord's in Yates Street and see these joint owners, Stephen Tominski and his partner, John Woolley.
Good afternoon,
Interview
sir.
them at length, comprehensively and in detail, because we're pretty certain that Roberts has been staying there, possibly his last port of call before he disappeared.
Plastic bags,
collected from the bins. Yeah. Now we put them in here into these plastic bags, and then they get shoved outside. Yeah,
Right.
into the yard.
Yeah. When do they go outside?
Usually Monday night, Tuesday morning.
Yeah. So the bins are collected on Tuesday, are
On
they?
a Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah. Did you put the rubbish out?
I can't really remember. I mean, sometimes I do it, sometimes Stephen does it.
So it could be that some of the rubbish from that room is in these bags here. It's possible.
It's possible, yeah, but I couldn't swear to it.
No. If you can leave these bags here where they are, and comes back, we'll call back to see him, and we'll finalise the situation then. Depending on what he says, will depend on whether we take him away with us.
Unloading titles for 38 seconds. 38 seconds.
Stand by with the lighting change. We're coming to 3 next, then it'll bring you on to first soon. Just a reminder to keep VT30 sound there. You don't go off your next to Q2 VT30 because we use your sound under the white top in the studio.
Counting out of titles. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
Coming to 3.
2, 1,
And
0.
mix and lighting change.
I was sitting at home with my family watching television when Crimewatch was come on. I normally watch it if I can. As I was sat watching it, this picture flashed up, the usual, "Have you seen this man?" And as I sat watching it, I thought, oh no. I thought, I've seen him somewhere. But you know, when you see a face and you can't quite picture where you've seen him. So I sat thinking about it, and it suddenly clicked where and when I'd seen him.
And finally, before we go, remember the picture we showed you earlier?
Slide file.
Police want to talk to you about
Ready to zoom back.
on Nixon, the Lake District hotelier.
And
Anyone
zoom
knows
back.
the whereabouts of this man, David Wynne Roberts. Please phone police in Penrith. That's on 0768 66 000. 0768 66 000.
Good evening, sir. Can I help you?
Yes. My name's David Wynne Roberts. Yes. My photograph appeared on Crimewatch this evening in connection with the murder of Mrs. Nixon at Ambleside. I've come here with my solicitor. As I understand, you have a few questions to ask me.
You must have been going to church.
You what?
Well, he's looking down on you, mate. You won't believe this, but he's walked in.
You're joking, man.
Roberts has walked into Chiswick Nick. He's with his solicitor.
Didn't expect that at all.
Don't want you to say anything to him other than caution, reason for arrest, in the car and back up to Kendall Nick.
Well, have we to bring the solicitor back with us?
No, he can't travel with him. You can give him the time of trains and he can travel up on his own.
Now, I want to listen very carefully to what I've got to say to you. Very recently, the Police and Criminal Evidence Act has come into law in England and Wales. And part of that law is a clock. And that clock is that when a person has been detained for offence, the minute he starts to be interviewed, the clock starts. And for that reason, as it's an offence committed up in Cumbria, no officer from this station will ask you any questions whatsoever, so the clock doesn't start.
Jack, you've had one call in particular, I gather. Just for update, what can we say?
I've had a very good call, actually. I've just been informed that our friend Roberts has just walked into Chiswick Police Station and come to advise us.
You sure it's him?
Definitely. I've already got 2 men who are actually in London on the way to Chiswick. Roberts will be arrested. He'll be taken back to Cumbria through the night and we'll interview him tomorrow morning.
OK, fine. Has anything else happened, incidentally, that...
We got an earlier call from someone in Cumbria who was actually travelling on a bus from Blackpool to Ambleside, but I don't understand anything more about that at the moment.
Now, we've got him in. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind, and there's no doubt in your minds also, that this is our man, right? Now then, What I want to talk about now is the strategy of how we approached this first interview. It seems fairly obvious to me that a man that walks into a police station with a solicitor is going to be prepared to stick it out. So I don't think under any circumstances that he's going to admit this. So the way to approach it is to try and find out exactly where he's been since he left Rothay Manor. Let's make a liar out of him. Let's break down his alibi. And let's see where we go from there.
Fair enough.
Now, approach it nice and gently. At this stage, don't drop the previous murder on him. You want to keep that for later on, right?
I'll take all the lines you've said. We'll challenge him on his movements, and if he's going well, you'll know that by the time we're in there, won't you?
Well, just get the feel for the thing when you go in, that's all.
Right.
I'd like to know where he was when he saw that Crimewatch programme. I'd like to know who he was with. We need to get into those premises because we still do not know what's stolen from that house.
Who were you with and where were you staying when you saw your photograph on Crimewatch UK?
I was at a friend's house in London.
Who was that friend?
That I decline to answer.
Will you tell me who that friend was?
That I decline to answer.
Why?
Because my friend has a room in this house. And any problems arising from visits by police, etc., will cause him to be thrown out.
I would like to know who that man was.
That I decline to answer.
So what did you think when you saw your photograph on television?
I didn't hear all that was said.
What did you think when you saw your photograph on television and heard what was said?
At first, I thought that Andrew had informed the police that I'd been staying with him. And that they want to ask me questions about why I was there.
Did you ring Andrew to find out?
No.
Why not?
I didn't think of ringing Andrew.
Why not?
Our relationship had ended when last we met.
Did you ever travel by the bus?
No.
Why are you telling lies, Mr. Roberts?
I'm not telling lies.
On Sunday the 19th of January this year, you were in Ambleside.
I was not in Ambleside on Sunday the 19th.
I put it to you that you were and that you murdered Mrs. Bronwyn Nixon.
Your information is incorrect.
At 6:40 on that Sunday night, you got on a bus at Lancaster. Is that right?
It is not.
At 8:15 that night, you got off the bus in Ambleside. Is that right?
It is not.
Later that night, you were seen outside Mrs. Nixon's house.
That is not correct.
I put it to you that it is, and that you murdered Mrs. Bronwyn Nixon.
Your information is not correct.
Are you prepared to stand on an identification parade?
No, because my photograph has been shown on television.
So if we find people that haven't seen your photograph on television or in the press, are you prepared to stand on an identification parade?
No, for the reasons I've already given. Had my photograph not appeared on television and subsequently in the newspapers, I would gladly have done so.
I would like you to give samples of a cutting from your hair, pubic hair, and other intimate samples. Are you prepared to give them?
I would like to answer that at the end of the questioning.
Roberts agreed on the Saturday night that he was in Blackpool and that he did meet Chris in the Flamingo Club and that they went to the Lord's Guest House and stayed together. But he denied that he'd ever been to Ambleside on the Sunday night and insisted that on that night he was in the Flamingo Club again. And he stayed there till it closed. Then he went back to the Lord's Guest House where he spent the night. They then agreed that he did go to London the following morning by train.
You've got a bit of a short temper, Mr. Roberts, haven't you?
On average, I would say no.
I put it to you that you have, and that you murdered Mrs. Bronwyn Nixon.
That is not correct.
You're quite well aware of the questions we've asked you and the answers that you've given so far.
I know what you mean.
When we arrest someone, we can only keep them for a period of 24 hours. Unless we charge them. We can get a further 12 hours. That can be authorised by the superintendent at the police station for good reason. Now, if we wish to go beyond that, we have to go to the magistrates, and this is what we did.
The public was excluded because police needed to refer to David Wynne Roberts' previous murder to justify detaining him, and that knowledge could prejudice a future jury. But under the new Police and Criminal Evidence Act, the suspect has a right to be there when police outline to magistrates why they want to keep him in detention.
One of the problems with that is that the defendant is there and sits throughout it. And he knows exactly what stage the inquiry has reached and where you're going from then. The point being that he may have to be re-interviewed, so he knows exactly what the situation is. That's one of the unfair things about it, I think, certainly from a police point of view. As you've already heard, when he was 14 and a half years old, Roberts was convicted of a murder in similar circumstances we are now faced with, and it is my opinion that his release would frustrate further inquiries.
Mr. Brodie, do you wish to question the witness?
Mr. Taylor, is it not the case that my client went willingly to the police?
He did.
And is it not a fact that within 1 hour of his photograph appearing on Crimewatch UK, he went voluntarily into Chiswick police station?
That's correct, he did.
And has he not given the police every cooperation and answered all their questions?
Your client cooperated to a certain extent, but he certainly didn't answer all the questions.
But he has certainly provided the police with complete details of all his whereabouts on the key dates.
That's not true either. He certainly hasn't told us where he was on the night that he walked into Chiswick police station.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor, but my client does deny all involvement with the case in question.
He did deny, but that doesn't mean I believe him.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. That will be all.
Thank you.
Your Worships, there is no cause for any further continual forced detention. We oppose the application.
Mr. Roberts, we agree this application. You will remain in custody for a further 24 hours.
Go with the officers, Mr. Roberts. The court will rise.
Well, in all inquiries, you have to have a piece of good fortune. And we were rather fortunate here in that the Blackpool Corporation had failed to collect the rubbish on the day that they ought to have done.
How you doing? There's one of us down there putting this lot in the CID store.
Hello, Lion.
Ah, got something here, Mac. Manor, what was the name of that place?
You must be joking.
No, it's here, it's here, this is it. It's a card of some description. More and more of this card. This is interesting. Ah, look at that. Oh, a black card there. I think we've got to start logging this. Absolutely. Hello, we've got a bit of newspaper here. Royal Festival Hall. It's got a couple of red crosses on it. And a number in black biro. I would like to know if you could tell us what that handwritten number on there refers to, please.
Yes, that would indicate that there was a booking made by credit card over the phone for an event in that advert.
Would your records tell us if a Mrs. Bronwyn Nixon has made a telephone booking by credit card over the last few weeks?
Yes, of course. It'll take me some time just to check our computer records. So I'll be with you in just a moment. Okay.
Thanks very much.
Sounds like we might be in business here.
Yeah, aye.
Yes, I've now got a printout which indicates that, yes, in that name, there was a booking made for 2 tickets on the 9th of January.
Mm-hmm. At what time?
At 6 o'clock exactly, 6 o'clock in the evening.
6 p.m.?
6 p.m.
That proved that Roberts had been back to the hotel, that he got Mrs. Nixon's purse, and that the only way he could have got that was to enter the house and eventually murder her.
But there was more than circumstantial evidence. Among the rubbish, sheddings from red cashmere fibre the size of 2 tiny pills. Forensic scientist Mike Davey.
When we looked at the red fibres, in conjunction with the tapings we'd taken from the scene and the ones taken from the car, we found that there were red fibres that were similar on these tapings, which suggested that whoever had been at the scene had also been in the car and subsequently at the boarding house. But having seen these red pills, it was fairly obvious that anything that did come in from a suspect that was red in colour would be of some interest to us.
Why did you go to London? To meet a friend.
Who was that?
Renato Fennick. I don't know his full address.
Where did you stay in London?
When I arrived?
Yeah. Well, all the time that you were in London.
I stayed at the York House Hotel in Earl's Court.
Anywhere else?
I went to the flat of the Maltese guy for some nights.
This Renato?
With Renato, yes.
Yeah.
Gee, it's a bit cramped in here. There's not a lot of room, is there?
No.
How many of you share this room, then?
Just two of us.
The biggest mistake that Roberts made, in my opinion, was telling us about Renato Fennick.
I haven't said that you once.
Renato Fennick was due to go to Malta the day after we interviewed him in London. He had a very important piece of evidence.
The red scarf that you asked for?
The red scarf, and the gloves, and the purse. And these three items, plus the ones he left behind in Blackpool, linked Roberts to that murder scene and the murder of Bronwyn Nixon.
Just make sure there's nothing inside.
Yeah, make sure you haven't left any money in it. It's the most important thing. It's empty, is it?
There you go.
Great. There's nothing else while you've been rummaging through there that you can think has given you, or anything that we might need to have a look at?
No, that's all he gave to me.
Meanwhile, that Sunday morning up in Kendal, it was back to the magistrates. Another 24 hours had elapsed. The courts were closed on Sundays, so they convened in an outbuilding. This was likely to be Jack Taylor's last chance to hold his man in custody. Detectives told the magistrates that David Wynne Roberts would be confronted by witnesses who might identify him. Then they'd charge him or release him. They were granted a further 36 hours.
Mr. Roberts, as you have refused to take part in an identification parade or a group identification parade, I intend to make arrangements for the witnesses to confront you independently. Do you understand?
Yes.
Is this the person?
No.
Is this the person?
Go. Bye. Yes.
Is this the person?
Yes.
No, Olga.
This way, please. Is this the person?
Yes.
We were aware that we were looking for red items. And so as soon as this scarf appeared on the scene, we were looking at that to see whether that was a potential source of the red fibres. Looking down the microscope, you can see control fibres taken from the scarf. On the left is one of the fibres that we recovered from a tape lift taken from Mrs. Nixon's body. And again, you can see that they match in colour and in microscopic appearance.
If Renata Fenwick had taken that scarf back to Malta, we may never have found it, and if we hadn't have found it, it's extremely unlikely that we'd ever prove this case.
I asked you questions yesterday, which I intend to ask again today. Are you prepared to answer those questions?
No.
Are you prepared to answer any questions at all?
No. I will not answer any of your questions.
Stand here. I'll listen to what this officer has to say to you.
David Wynne Roberts. You do not have to say anything unless you wish to do so, but what you say may be given in evidence. You are charged that on or about the 19th of January 1986 at Ambleside in the county of Cumbria did murder Bronwyn Nixon, contrary to common law.
Did you understand what the officer said?
Yes.
My opinion of David Wynne Roberts is that he's an extremely dangerous man. He's been shown to be on several occasions. He's murdered 2 women. He's now serving life imprisonment. In my opinion, he ought never to be let out.